Douluo, I'm really not strong. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, The Thirsty Cannon. Xue Balu, I order you to open the city gate, otherwise don't blame me for enforcing military law on you. Looking at the triumphant guard of the city tower, Xuan's face was as gloomy as water, and he immediately yelled angrily, "Your Highness, it's not that the general will not open the city gate, but it is the king's order. I dare not disobey it, even if you kill me. The general will never disobey my king's order." The sincere words sounded innocent, but the arrogant and joking look of Xue Balu, the guard on the tower, was clearly visible to Zhu Fang. When he was in front of the army formation point, her eyes seemed to be on fire. Xuan was so angry that his chest was heaving up and down. He wanted to wave his hand immediately and let the army attack citizen directly point. Unfortunately, he knew that he could not do this. If he really led the army to attack the city, how would the Balak kingdom feel? This would affect the whole body point. The border situation has not yet been decided, and there is no room for any further trouble. Damn it, if I had known earlier, I should have killed that boy Zuming. A coldness flashed in his eyes, and Xuan regretted that she had let Zuming go out of family affection, causing a rift between the Balak kingdom and the empire point. It's a pity that there is no regret medicine in this world, Marshal, otherwise we should change our route, a regiment commander suggested. General Ni, if the detour adds 2 days to the journey, the cavalry troops will naturally have no problem, but the heavy infantry cannot withstand such a big effort. Nangang Qiu retorted. Hearing this, General Ni was also speechless. Xuan frowned deeply and expressed his attitude. There is an urgent situation on the front line, and we must not waste time on the road. As he said that, Xuan also gritted his teeth, with a stern look in his eyes. If it doesn't work, we can only control citizen first. He originally didn't want to do this, but the border situation was unclear, and he couldn't afford to waste time. He didn't believe what Zuming dared to do to him. Marshal, but Nangang Qiu just wanted to remind Xuan, but was interrupted by Xuan. His eyes were red. If Zuming has any objections, after this battle is over, I will personally go to Barrack City to meet him. Hearing what Xuan said, Nangang Qiu and others couldn't persuade them anymore, and began to think about how to capture Citizen. Although Citizen has only 10,000 defenders, it is located between 2 mountains. To be honest, it is not easy to capture. Later, I will attack from the sky and control the people on the city tower. When the city gate is opened, you will immediately lead the troops to occupy the city. No, as soon as Xuan finished speaking, fierce opposition immediately started. Your Highness, you are the pillar of the empire and the commander of an army. How can you take risks? General, Nangang is right. Although we know that the marshal has extraordinary combat power, there is no guarantee that, if an accident occurs, he will still lead his men to open the city gate. Yes, Marshal, let us go. Enough. Although she knew that the 3 of them were thinking about themselves, Xuan still shouted coldly and stopped the 3 of them. Citizen is 40 meters thick, and the city gates are forged from fine iron. Depending on the situation, the thickness is also extremely large. In addition, the city is heavily guarded, and they have been prepared for it. The cultivation of the 3 Soul Emperors may be difficult to open, and they will have to go there themselves. Sigh, it's a pity that my attack is a bit poor, otherwise it wouldn't be a problem to penetrate the city directly. Why would it be like this? Xuan sighed helplessly in his heart point. Although he belongs to the agility type fighting spirit Douluo, due to the characteristics of the swan spirit, he cannot hunt evil birds of prey, so most members of the royal family tend to prefer the balanced style. Soul skills include control, speed, and assistance. Since then, the powerful attack power has been greatly reduced. If it were another beast soul Douluo, it would just use powerful soul skills to attack continuously and directly penetrate the city. Alas, old man Zhu, it looks like you are in trouble. At this time, a joking voice suddenly rang out, and Du Gubo's figure appeared in front of him. He had his hands behind his back, looking very dignified. How about it? Do you need me to take action? Douluo raised his eyebrows and said somewhat complacently. Seeing Douluo's arrogant look, Xuan's face turned dark, but she was very clear in her heart. If Douluo is willing to take action, things will be much simpler. He doesn't even need to attack the city tower. He just needs to use poison to knock down all the soldiers guarding the city and then revive them, and the matter can be solved perfectly. "Ah, you willing to take action?" Xuan asked reluctantly. "I only need you to agree to one condition. I will open the city gate for you immediately. What do you think?" Douluo said with a smile. "A condition?" Hearing this, Xuan was also stunned, feeling that something was wrong. The dignified title Douluo wanted to negotiate terms with him? And, is it still Douluo? No matter how you look here, something feels wrong. Old poison, are you feeling itchy? Xian, who had just prepared everything and arrived, immediately glared at Douluo. "This bad old man is really bad. He is beating around the bush to plot against me. Pooh. It's not a toy. If you don't want to, then forget it." Seeing Xian coming, Douluo disappeared in a flash, as if he was deliberately trying to prevent Xian from finding him, lest he be shouted around. Cut. Seeing Douluo hiding as if taking refuge, Xian pouted angrily. He knew that the thugs were more of a decoration, and he had to do it himself at the critical moment. It just so happened that it was time for him to take out the Italian cannon for a walk, otherwise it would get rusty if he kept it in his crotch. "I'll blow open the city wall later, and our lines leave the rest to you," Xian said in a short sentence. "You?" Nangang Qiu looked at Xian in disbelief, and almost blurted out the phrase, "The hair is not even lonking. Do you have any idea?" Xuan's eyes lit up and he asked. Before he left, Emperor Xue secretly revealed that, if there was any difficulty, Xian could take action. Come to think of it, Xue wouldn't be aimless. He obviously knew something. "Of course, just watch. Give me 3 minutes." After waving to several people, Xian spoke firmly and left directly. He didn't want to expose the Italian cannon, a weapon that spanned the ages, and caused trouble for his leisurely life, so he naturally used the cannon behind his back. Although the feeling of pleasure was a little worse, he could still accept it barely. This kid is actually hiding it, watching Xian leave. Xuan shook his head. Curiosity flashed in his eyes, wondering how he would bring down the city wall. On top of a mountain peak, Xian looked at the city not far away and couldn't help but feel high-spirited. With a wave of his hand, he directly lifted off the cloth covering the Soul Guide repeater cannon. The pitch-black 3-meter gun barrel was pointed directly at the citizen city wall. The gun barrel, with a diameter of more than 60 centimeters, was like the bloody mouth of a beast, and its terrifying aura was frightening. Chapter 102: The Horror of the 6th Level Fixed Soul Cannon. The system of the Xian Empire is different from that of the Star Luo Empire. It has strong constraints on subordinate kingdoms. It is more like a loose federation. In name, the kingdom has unification in terms of political and military orders, but in fact there is no unity at all. The king does not pay attention to these at all. Rather than saying it is a feudal state, it is better to say that it is the kind of vassal-state relationship in ancient China, with military independence and policy autonomy. It is completely like a local emperor, who will fight with the suzerain country and show off his arm muscles when there is nothing wrong. Therefore, the troops of the Balik Kingdom only obey the orders of the king, and the king is everything to them. As for Emperor Xue, at best, they only refer to him as His Majesty in words, and don't take it seriously in their hearts at all. Mountain. Ahem. Xue, go and ask them to evacuate more than 1 mile. I'm afraid this thing is too powerful, and will hurt them. Seeing Xian Ringsu stared at the cannon curiously, Xian couldn't help but shook his head, and then reminded him. Although she was very curious, there was no chance in the future. Xian Ringsu nodded and left directly. Seeing Xian Ringsu leave, Xian Muran breathed a sigh of relief. He was full of majesty and strength just now, but now he suddenly loses his temper in front of her. As a husband, is he shameless? That's right. Xian then remembered that this soul cannon requires mental positioning, but this mental power, alright. We can skip this unpleasant topic for now, and wait until I install the external soul bone eyes. However, he just say this just to get rid of Xian Ringsu point. Although this is just an ordinary 6th level fixed soul guided artillery shell used for continuous firing, its power is still enough to kill the Soul Emperor in seconds, and even the Soul Saint cannot stand it. Xian was really afraid that if he hit the army with one shot, he would be able to get the hat of Douluo's #1 cheater from Zhu Wuji's head perfectly. Then, when he succeeds to the throne of God, his name will be the first trap god, the kind who helps so and so to die. You said he asked us to retreat at the foot of the mountain. Xuan was also a little after receiving Suzanne's strange request. But after thinking about it, he still asked the army to withdraw 500 meters away, so that the total distance of the army from the city was 800 meters. Since Citizen couldn't run away anyway, he wanted to see what Suzanne was up to. Your Highness, the general is not far away. Seeing the army actually retreating, Xiao Balu couldn't help but burst into laughter. Utter mockery. Alas, I don't know if it was Liang Jingru who gave him the courage to have a Soul Emperor jump around in front of Contra. Perhaps this is the consciousness of cannon fodder. If he doesn't show off now, he will have no chance in the future. At least he can brag about himself even after he dies and goes to hell. That's a perfect explanation. Qiu Balu, I will take your head later to clear the way for my army. Zhu ungritted his teeth, roared angrily, and then retreated with the army. Ha ha ha. Behind the scenes, an arrogant laugh lingered between the two mountains, and Xuan gritted his teeth. On the mountain, watching Xuan retreat, Suzanne still used a Soul Emperor experience card to temporarily increase his mental power. Listen to the defenders of Citizen. I'll give you half a minute to evacuate the city, otherwise I won't be responsible if you get killed. Out of humanitarian spirit, Suzanne still gave them a chance, took out a loudspeaker and shouted. The loud voice suddenly sounded in the mountains and spread far into the two armies. You can try it. If you have the ability, General will be waiting for you in the city. Ha ha ha. Xiao Balu was also stunned, and then shouted at the top of his lungs, not paying attention at all. Even the garrison in the city was shouting, seemingly not taking the Empire's army seriously. Suzanne, depend on. I'm giving you face, right? As long as you laugh happily, then let me give you a shot first. In order not to hurt the people in the city, Suzanne locked his mental power in the area 20 meters in front of the city gate, raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and then directly activated the cannon. Boom. There was a loud noise, and a pitch black cannonball flew out, and the magic patterns on his body emitted a dazzling light. Like meteors, the cannonballs flew straight towards the city gate as fast as lightning. What's this? Seeing the cannonballs coming, Qiu Balu's face was full of curiosity. Before he could react, a violent white light enveloped him in an instant, followed by a terrifying heat wave and fire. He didn't even have a chance to shout. He was directly spat on by this terrifying energy and turned into starlight and dissipated. Boom. A huge mushroom cloud emerged in front of Citizen City Gate. A terrifying explosion shook the ground and shook the mountains. The air was squeezed, and flames shot into the sky in an instant. Even the people in the city were frightened by this world-destroying scene and fled madly. Suddenly in chaos, 800 meters away, Xuan and others were dumbfounded, looking at the rising mushroom cloud in horror. Even Xuan, a contra, had cold hands and feet, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Array up. Feeling the scorching wave of air rushing towards him, Xuan immediately gave a deep shout, and then formed a defensive shield in front of him. This kid, above the sky, Douluo also gathered a defensive shield. His eyes swept over the mushroom cloud, and then looked at Suzanne on the mountain in surprise. Under this violent explosion, most of the Soul Saints could not stand it, and even Soul Douluo would be severely damaged. Unexpectedly, Suzanne was still like this. Douluo couldn't help but let out a long breath, feeling a little lucky in his heart. Fortunately, he didn't choose to snatch the soul bones, otherwise the scene in front of him would be the fate of the Douluo family. Awesome. On the mountain, Suzanne couldn't help but marvel at the explosion in front of him. Although the level 6 fixed soul cannon is not as destructive as a level 7 soul cannon, which can destroy buildings within a kilometer in diameter, it is equally terrifying in its power. After a while, The smoke slowly dissipated, and the first thing that came into view was a deep pit with a diameter of 30 meters. Thick black smoke came out of the pit, as if the door to hell had been opened. However, when everyone looked at the city, they were really startled again, and couldn't help but gasp. I saw that with the city gate as the center, the city wall, that was originally 70 meters high and 60 meters thick, was now like jelly that had been scooped by Yeo with a spoon. The entire city was dented, and the top was severely shaved. The originally solid copper and iron walls were now completely in ruins. They looked like they were lingering and would collapse if pushed by the hand point. Perhaps the only thing that survived was the city corners on both sides of the mountain, which were tightly covered by black mist. Seeing the scene in front of them, Xuan and the others were immediately stunned. Their eyes were full of horror and fear, and they felt chills running down their backs. It seems that the distance I calculated is correct. Suzanne couldn't help but breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the city had not suffered any huge damage due to the city wall. Chapter 103 Cooperation between grandfather and grandson. Ordinary level 6 fixed soul cannons can destroy buildings within a radius of more than 100 meters, but after all, they are only level 6 fixed soul cannons. Therefore, the attack on the high thickness city wall did not reach the point of collapse at the first touch. If it were replaced with a custom installed 7th level soul cannon, its power would be really powerful. Even Contra couldn't touch it head on. If it faced him head on, he would be crippled, even if he didn't die. However, the current situation of the city wall was still acceptable to Suzanne. A big hole had been blown out of the city wall at the gate, and the army could just pass through. As for the defenders on the city wall, Suzanne could only express his blessings to them. As the first batch of people to be attacked by soul cannons, they will feel proud even if they die. The citizen garrison will mark the beginning of a milestone in the future. It symbolizes the beginning of the use of soul-guided weapons in combat and sets a clear example for future generations. Don't think that you can just yell because they can't hit you. Maybe they are using cannons. So much so that later, such a famous proverb that began to spread was closely related to it. Boy, what is this thing of yours? This was his first time to kill someone. Just as Suzanne was intricately admiring his masterpiece, Douluo appeared. I saw him looking at the cannon on the ground with fiery eyes, seemingly with a hint of greed. There was no way around it. Although such a powerful killing weapon did not pose much of a threat to him, it was still enough to make him fearful. Because it is only controlled by a soul master, it can burst out with such terrifying attack power. Maybe the soul master world in the future will be written about this thing. What, are you planning to rob again? After giving Douluo a slow look, Suzanne put away the soul cannon with some disappointment. Alas, this old man seems to have no money, and he doesn't feel much sense of accomplishment, even if he successfully resists the robbery. I seem to be that kind of person. I'm just curious. Douluo glared at him angrily and retorted, "You should know better than me who you are." Hearing this, Suzanne couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. She was really not ashamed to pretend like this in front of him who had read the original work. Besides, you even wanted to steal my things last time. Hearing this, Douluo's old face was also slightly red, but he still licked his face and asked, "By the way, what is that thing of yours that is so powerful?" There is no way. Even Douluo, who is a titled Douluo, is extremely curious about this unknown thing. Who knows if this guy's carrying something more dangerous? If I get a blow while I'm practicing while I'm resting, then I'm so scared to think about it. Why are you asking this? You poor guy. Can you afford tens of millions of dollars? Xian glanced at Douluo with contempt, then went down the mountain and left. Douluo, depend on. It costs tens of millions of gold coins to open and close your mouth. Why can't I just ask? Seeing Suzanne being so rude, Douluo felt very angry, but in an instant, his inner eagerness suppressed his anger. But, how do I make money? Douluo's eyes were a little complicated, and he sighed inwardly. The temptation of having an attached soul bone is too great. Even if he doesn't use it, and leaves it to his granddaughter Douluo, it can enhance her future achievements. Maybe, the Douluo family will have a title Douluo again. After all, this is the second most treasured treasure on the Soul Master's dream list. In fact, because the externally attached soul bone can accompany the growth of the soul bone and is raised since childhood, it is to a certain extent higher than the value of 100,000-year soul ring point. Therefore, the Douluo family will never give up. Originally, he had finished his retreat and planned to get some money secretly. But now that he was called here, it was a bit difficult. Secret robbery doesn't work, so we can only do it openly. After pondering for a moment, Douluo suddenly laughed, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, glanced past Citizen, and couldn't help but sigh. Alas, what a wonderful city. So, there should be a lot of treasures inside, right? He is not stealing, but just keeping them away from the flames of war. That's right, just do it. At the foot of the mountain, Xuan and others were still frightened. Obviously they had not recovered from the shelling just now. Seeing Suzanne's return, the generals immediately looked over. They looked admiring and excited, as if they were facing a victorious general. Don't look at me like this, I'll be embarrassed. Quickly waving her hands, Suzanne came to Xuan in high spirits. Generals, MMP. Sorry to say yes. Why did I see you feeling complacent? So, are you satisfied with the effect, Grandpa Second? Suzanne raised an eyebrow and asked. Well, hearing this, Xuan was also stunned, looking at Suzanne with relief and uncontrollable excitement. But in the end, he still sighed, and his tone was somewhat intriguing. I originally wanted to control the city and reduce the conflict with the Balak Kingdom. It would be better for you to just blow them up. Suzanne. Hearing this, Suzanne felt as if 1,000 grass and mud horses were galloping past, staring at Xuan in horror. What he felt at this moment was like a millstone that had just finished grinding beans, or like the donkey pushing the millstone. Damn it, what is this? A real killing of a donkey? My city gate was blown open for you, but you told me you didn't want to do this. So, am I doing bad things with good intentions? Should we have just blown open the small piece of the city gate and let the army charge? Then, they rise up to resist, and let your army annihilate them. Ahem. I don't mean to blame you. I'll just kill him. Seeing Suzanne staring at her with disdain, Xuan quickly waved her hand and comforted her. After saying that, Xuan approached Suzanne and lowered his voice to remind him, as a prince, you'd better not do these things again. Not only will it harm Xian, but it will also affect the succession to the throne. You have to know that the nobles are not worried about being led by a stupid and intelligent emperor. What they are afraid of is a bloodthirsty and cruel emperor. Well, hearing Xuan say these words to himself, Suzanne was also stunned. He didn't expect that there was so much knowledge in it. However, I never thought about becoming an emperor. Besides, I didn't do that thing just now. Okay, Marshal, you may be mistaken. I just asked Douluo poison Douluo to take action. He did all this, and has nothing to do with me. Suzanne replied confidently. Hearing this, the 3 Legion commanders Nangan Qiu rolled their eyes and were speechless. The others didn't know what happened in front of the city tower just now. They followed Xuan, but they could see it clearly point disdain. Yes, this is the attitude of the eldest prince towards Douluo. Now if you say ask him to take action, they won't believe it, even if you kill them. Poison. Douluo opened the way for my army. I thank you so much. As expected of a veteran, Xuan immediately understood that Suzanne was shirking responsibility and immediately shouted loudly, point Suzanne. Second Grandpa. I give this a perfect score. Chapter 104. I'm titled Douluo and Rob. Thank you Poison Douluo for opening the way for my army. Nangan Qiu and the others were also stunned, and then they immediately understood and started shouting in agreement. Hearing the 3 Legion commanders shouting this, the entire army immediately raised a uniform shout of gratitude, like thunder rolling from the sky, deafening. Seeing this scene, Suzanne couldn't help but laugh, feeling grateful to Douluo for 2 seconds. Poison Douluo. Titled Douluo. What a good scapegoat. Even if the Balak Kingdom has objections, if you have the ability, you can challenge them to a duel. Sigh, why is my brain so good that I came up with such a method? Douluo, who had just entered Citizen, staggered when he heard the roar coming from outside the city and almost fell down from the sky. 2 bastards, one old and one young. I'm not done with you anymore. His face was as dark as ink, and Douluo was so angry that he started to curse. Numacell batches. This is nakedly using yourself as a shield. Keeping this account secretly in his mind, Douluo took a deep breath and took off the mask on his face. He has nothing to worry about anymore. They all think it was me who did it anyway, so I'll show you what he did. Call out. Douluo's figure fell from the sky and directly penetrated the main hall of the city lord's mansion. Looking at the panicked, frightened middle-aged man in front of him, Douluo showed no expression on his face and shouted domineeringly, "I poisoned Douluo, Douluo." Hearing this, the middle-aged city lord's brain went blank, and he almost fainted. Damn it. A titled Douluo actually came from the Xian Empire. Just as the middle-aged city lord's heart and soul were trembling, Douluo's callous and indifferent voice sounded again. "Now, I order you to gather all the wealth of the city lord's mansion here, middle-aged man." What the hell? Did I get it wrong? Do you want me to say it a second time? With his eyes focused, Douluo's face was as frosty as he roared, "I, Douluo, now, let's rob, middle-aged city lord." Without the obstruction of the city wall, the army directly took control of the city. First, they were frightened to death by the power of the custom-installed soul cannon, and then they heard that there were titled Douluo outside. The soldiers guarding the city had no intention of resisting. They watched the army pass through citizen honestly, not daring to make any further obstruction. After Suzanne finished all this, he returned to his carriage. Then, he was surrounded by 3 women. Looking at Xian, Suzanne couldn't help but nodded. As a daughter-in-law, this girl should be proud and curious. He looked at Xue Qinghe again, and it was right for his cousin to be curious. But Qiu, why are you here? Do I know you well? I'm just here to remind you that it's better to hide such a powerful weapon and use it sparingly, otherwise it will only be the empire that suffers. Knowing that Suzanne didn't want to see him, Qiu breathed out a deep reminder, then stood up and left directly. Suzanne? Noticing that there seemed to be something wrong in Qiu's eyes, Suzanne couldn't tell what it meant. Anyway, he just thought it was a little weird. Your aunt is very kind to you, but you have never experienced it, and she doesn't know how to express it, so you may think she is too mean. Seeing Qiu leaving, Xue Qinghe sighed inwardly and reminded her sincerely. Hearing this, Suzanne's heart moved, and she didn't know how to answer. Anyway, she was still a little repelled in her heart. "Okay, let's talk about what you used to blow open the city gate." Seeing the tangled look on Suzanne's face, Xue Qinghe waved her hand. Her gentle voice sounded like a spring breeze again. Her eyes were full of smiles, and her refreshing smile was like the warm Sunday sister. "This is an imperial military secret." Suzanne's face softened slightly, and he said seriously, "You can't even tell me?" Xue Qinghe was stunned and asked in a stiff tone. "Yeah, father gave the order." Suzanne nodded and directly threw the blame on Emperor Xue. "All right." After hearing that it was His Majesty's order, Xue Qinghe did not continue to ask, but just nodded silently. Xue Qinghe also left, not to disturb Suzanne's world, nor to cause any trouble in her heart. Xian said nothing, and looked at Suzanne curiously with her large watery eyes, saying nothing. Putting his arms around Xian and letting her lean on his shoulders, Suzanne lay back on the comfortable cushions, his tired face looking a little more relaxed. "Do you look tired?" With a sweet smile, Xian held Suzanne's waist with her right hand, but when she raised her head, she noticed that Suzanne's expression suddenly became a little strange, and she couldn't help but ask. His eyes looked tired, as if he had stayed up all night. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was a little pale. Hearing this, Suzanne nodded truthfully and gently stroked Xian's back with her palm, which seemed a little weak. He also didn't expect that the cultivation experience card would have side effects. Although it would not affect future practice, it would consume a lot of the body's energy and require rest to recover. "Then, you go to sleep first, and I'll give you a massage." Standing up slightly, Xian leaned on the cushion, then helped Suzanne to lie on her smooth and moist thighs, and began to massage his temples and shoulders. Fortunately, seeing Xian's gentle and virtuous attitude, Suzanne showed a knowing smile, then moved his head slightly, found a comfortable angle and lay down, then stopped moving. While Suzanne was enjoying the warm and fragrant nephrite, a fierce argument had already begun in the Chinese army camp. Douluo. Bo, I didn't expect that you, who are so arrogant, would one day rob wealth. Could it be that the Douluo family has been unable to uncover the truth? Do you want me to lend you tens of thousands of gold coins to help you with emergencies? Looking at Douluo Bo, Xuan's eyes were filled with a joking smile. Originally, she sent people to the city lord's palace, intending to simply provide some supplies for the army, but she didn't expect to get such big news unexpectedly. Titled Douluo robbery? Damn it. This is the first time in history. It turns out that Douluo Bo is so tough. He was wrong before. In response to Xuan's teasing, Douluo Bo, who has been through it all, became thick-skinned and his expression remained calm. No way. He's already robbed. What else can make him blush? No. Invincible is so lonely. Why should I take the blame for you? I feel very comfortable taking the blame for myself. Douluo Bo exhaled a thick breath from his nose. He was a little angry, but he felt happy inside. This was the first medium-sized city, and he actually robbed 3 million gold coins from the city lord's palace and warehouse. If he encounters a few more cities, he will get his money back immediately. If he goes to Berwick City, Gilu, the attached soul bone is not yet in his possession. I'll do it. Sure enough, shameless people live a more carefree life. Thanks to. Can I post more? For the reward, please subscribe and reward automatically. If it doesn't work, just send a beautiful girl over. Let's make do with it on Valentine's Day. Chapter 105. My grandson is really awesome. After Citizen was blocked, the march behind became extremely smooth. In addition to the fact that there was no city to block it, what was more important was Douluo Bo's sweep. It was his first robbery, and he was a little embarrassed at first, but now he has become a complete veteran. In the Chinese army camp, Xuan's face turned dark and purple as he watched Douluo Bo circle dots on the map of his camp, pointing out the country in a thoughtful manner. MMP. For those who didn't know, I thought you were a military commander, but you were actually planning which city to rob. When will my Chinese army camp turn into a bandit? Then, old man Zhu, you are familiar with the Balak Kingdom, but you don't know which city in front of you is the richest. Touching his chin and looking at the map in front of him, Douluo Bo couldn't help but fall into deep thought, his face looking a little tangled. The Kingdom of Berwick has Soto City and Berwick City. I suggest you go to Berwick City and rob the palace. Xuan's face turned purple. She glanced at Douluo Bo expresslessly and continued to drink her health tea. Her tone was irritable, as if she was irritating. Don't tell me yet. I'm planning to visit Soto City tomorrow. Douluo Bo replied nonchalantly, his eyes fixed on Soto City in front of them on the map. As the second main city of the Berwick Kingdom, second only to the royal capital Berwick City, the inventory is bound to be very fat. Zilly, why am I still drooling uncontrollably now that I have tens of millions of dollars in income? No. As a titled Douluo, how can I be addicted to doing this? But robbery is really fun, isn't it? Aren't you afraid that the Balak Kingdom will ask the titled Douluo of the Spirit Hall to hunt you down? Seeing that Douluo Bo was hopeless, Xuan couldn't help but shook his head and reminded although the Balak Kingdom nominally belongs to the Xian Empire, he is quite happy to cause some trouble for zooming point anyway. The enemy of the Balak Kingdom is only Douluo Bo, and it has nothing to do with their army. It would be good for him to reap the benefits of being a fisherman. Hearing this, Douluo Bo's happy face also became a little solemn. Although the Balak Kingdom does not have a titled Douluo, if the Spirit Hall takes action, although Ghost Douluo and the others couldn't kill him, they would still be in trouble if they were targeted. But as if he thought of something, Douluo Bo laughed again in the blink of an eye. If that guy zooming dares to attack me, I will poison the city of Berwick. I will send him a letter later to see if he has the courage. A ferocious look flashed across his face. Douluo Bo's hair was flying like a madman, and his eyes were as cold as ice that had never melted for thousands of years. Douluo Bo is different from ordinary titled Douluo. If they want to hurt each other, let's see who can afford it. He is indeed a lunatic. Hearing Douluo Bo's words, Xuan was also stunned and was obviously shocked by his idea. However, this is poison Douluo style. It's not because your grandson drove you crazy. His face suddenly calmed down, and Douluo, who had regained his composure, glanced at Xue Qinghe lightly, and snorted angrily, knowing that the Douluo family has no money. They still mention the jade phosphorus snake queen possessing a soul bone. This is a naked attempt to force him to go to Liangshan. What's going on? Upon hearing this, Xuan's pupils shrank, and she immediately brought her old face closer, her eyes full of gossip. Turns out that this matter has something to do with my grandson. TSK to force a title Douluo to rob. Holy shit. As expected of his grandson, he is really awesome. Gungan, don't bother me here to make a fortune. Seeing Xuan's old wrinkled face, Douluo couldn't help but feel a little nauseous and pushed him away. Are you kidding me? I don't want to lose face for such a shameful thing. Ask. What a stupid question. Xuan, depend on. You've been really wondering lately. Could it be that money really gave you courage? On the other side, Suzanne also woke up leisurely. After 2 days of comfortable sleep, he seemed to have regained his confidence as a man and felt refreshed. You finally woke up. Seeing Suzanne wake up, Xue, who was waiting at the side, also breathed a sigh of relief. Then he picked up the handkerchief from the side, lightly dipped it in water, and wiped his face considerately. How long have I been asleep? After stretching, Suzanne felt that his bones were extremely soft. He cheered up and stared blankly at Xue, letting her wipe her face gently. It's been 2 days. Xue replied with a refreshing smile. 2 days? Hearing this, Suzanne was also a little surprised. He didn't expect that he had slept for so long. It seems that the cultivation experience card cannot be used indiscriminately. If I use a title Douluo, I won't be able to lie in bed for 10 days and a half. Suzanne couldn't help but nodded and remembered this secretly, but in the blink of an eye his brows furrowed again. I've slept for 2 days. Why don't I feel hungry? Suzanne looked at Xue curiously. I cooked some porridge and fed it to you every day. Hearing this, Xue's face turned red with embarrassment and she replied nuo. Then, why are you blushing? Suzanne asked with a raised brow. Maybe the weather is hotter. Xue replied weakly, lowering her head shyly. Suzanne, pooh. Female liar, female hooligan. She doesn't recognize anyone every time she eats and touches her. I happen to be hungry now. Let me try how your porridge is doing. Suzanne said seriously. Good. Hearing this, Xue nodded with a sweet smile, and then took out a large bowl of porridge from the food box, with a spoon and a small bowl beside it. Looking at the red mark on the spoon, Suzanne couldn't help but nodded. It was exactly what he thought. This spoon is dirty, let me wash it. Xue also noticed the lip marks on it. Her face turned red, and when she was about to leave, she was hugged directly by Suzanne. You were not shy when you fed me. Why are you so shy now? Suzanne looked at each other and said with a mischievous smile. Whoa! Suddenly, an electric current surged through his body. Xue's pupils shrank suddenly, her face turned like hot lava, and she couldn't help but moan. A minute later, Suzanne raised his body with satisfaction and looked at Xue, who was slumped in his arms with a blushing face, his eyes full of doting and pity. This porridge tastes right now. After rubbing Xue's little head, Suzanne raised the corners of his mouth slightly and said seriously. Hearing this, Xue blushed even more and stared at him with shame and anger, suppressing the sweetness and joy in her heart. Suzanne took the small bowl of multigrain porridge on the table and took a bite. It tasted really good, just a little thinner, but it tastes very sweet and warms my heart. You hungry too? Do you want me to feed you some porridge? Seeing Xue staring at him, Suzanne raised his eyebrows with a warm smile on his face, as if he was harmless to humans and animals. Xue. Am I hungry now? Waiting online. Urgent. Thanks to Little Lucky for the reward. Please recommend votes, monthly tickets, subscribe, and reward. Exclamation mark. Chapter 106 Shrek Academy. Arriving at Soto City, the distance from Emo City was less than 200 miles. The army also rested temporarily here, preparing to gallop straight to the border. The city lord of Soto City also became very sensible. Even though there were 100,000 troops stationed nearby, he did not dare to provoke the Imperial army. A poisoned Douluo is already under a lot of pressure, plus Prince Xuan, the pillar of the empire. Even if King Zuming gives a death order, he can't handle this situation. You can't use Soto City to jam the opponent's teeth, right? For the future of the Balik Kingdom, he must learn to be patient at this time. That's right. He is definitely not afraid of death. Suzanne became very interested when he arrived at Soto City. This place was also considered a popular place for Douluo in the early stages, and it was a must-visit check-in point. After traveling through Time Point Shrek Academy, such a famous name, he got his fortune from here. Suzanne also wanted to see it. When they heard that Suzanne was going to the city, Xuan and Nangangling's first reaction was to stop him, but seeing that Du Gubo was also there, they let him go. In this way, Suzanne and his party left the military camp and headed towards Soto City. Holding Xian Ringsu in his arms, Suzanne looked at Du Gubo's depressed look and couldn't help but say, "Old poisonous man, I heard that you have made a lot of money recently. What do you want to do, kid?" Hearing Suzanne ask for money, Du Gubo's expression froze, and he stared at him with vigilance and anger, as if he had developed his own 3 defenses awareness. That's right, it's important to guard against enemies, and Suzanne, especially the latter. It's nothing. I just want to remind you to keep working hard, and don't give up such a great opportunity. Xian reminded sincerely, and he was already smiling in his heart. You can grab as much as you want, and I will ask Tuo to raise the price as much as you want when the auction comes. It depends on whether you want gold coins or soul bones. Originally, he planned to secretly loot it by himself, but when he woke up, he heard the news of Du Gubo's big sweep. The admiration for him in his heart was like a torrential river, endless. A dignified and titled Douluo, he robbed the city lord's mansion upright, and his shameless character was almost catching up with him. What I didn't say, I must support. It's better to grab more, or else I'll be sorry for your title. Douluo's face. Seeing Suzanne's malicious smile, Du Gubo's eyelids suddenly twitched, and he said anxiously, "You don't want to rob the city lord's mansion too, do you?" As soon as the idea came to his mind, Du Gubo's expression suddenly became angry, and he stared at Suzanne like a hungry wolf, as if he would go berserk at any moment. Soto City is extremely fat. He has been planning this for 2 days. Now, how dare you rob me? Exclamation mark. Can you behave like a prince? Besides, are you short of money now? I'm short of money. Suzanne's eyes squinted, and he said angrily, "Do you think I look like the kind of shameless person who steals money?" Hearing this, Du Gubo's forehead was covered with black lines, and he looked at him expressionlessly, with just 3 words "you are" written on his face. Wrong. Very meow. Suddenly, Du Gubo's pupils shrank suddenly, as if he realized something, as if his tail was stepped on. His face turned red and he shouted, were you calling me shameless?" Every word seemed to be picked out from between his teeth. Du Gubo's eyes were already burning with anger. Can the brain circuit be used? Seeing Du Gubo's shameful and angry look, Suzanne calmly shook his head and remained silent. Point is a money trap. What he hates most is money grabbing people who have no technical content at all. Seeing that Suzanne was silent, Du Gubo's face twitched, but fortunately, he felt relieved knowing that Suzanne would not compete with him. As for the insult just now, he always respects the old and loves the young, so of course I forgive him. The group entered the city and saw that Suzanne seemed to have no intention of staying in the city. Du Gubo looked a little anxious and asked quickly, "Where are you planning to go?" No way. Plenty of gold coins are right in front of him, just waiting for him to say get the money. Isn't he in a hurry? Just going to a small village to have fun. Suzanne replied, and walked directly through Soto City. A small village. Hearing this, Du Gubo's expression changed, and he immediately followed him. Based on his observations over the past few days, Suzanne has a somewhat lazy temperament, and will never act aimlessly. Come to think of it, this village must be a little different. Nestling next to Suzanne, Xian Ringsu's watery eyes were full of curiosity. Is there anything different about that village? There's an academy in there. Suzanne replied in a deep voice, looking at the dirt road ahead, his eyes flickering, not knowing what he was thinking. college. Hearing this word, Xian Ringsu couldn't help but feel dumb. He remembered someone who hated going to the academy. Is this college very strong? Xian Ringsu asked subconsciously, but as soon as she said the words, she felt something was wrong. If she was very strong, she should be famous. How could she be in a village? I don't know if it's strong or not, but it's really broken, Suzanne said with deep meaning. Broken? Xian Ringsu was startled, her mind filled with doubts. After a while, the group came to a village. Xian Ringsu looked at the scene in front of her and finally understood what broken in Suzanne's mouth meant. I saw the entrance to the village ahead, an arch made of wood, and a worn out plaque standing on the ground beside it. Although it looked awkward, Xian Ringsu still recognized the word Shrek Academy. As for the Shrek pattern on the side, she simply ignored it. In one word, ugly. At this moment, Douluo seemed to sense something. His pupils shrank, and he said with some amazement, 1 soul saint, 3 soul emperors, it's really a hidden dragon and a crouching tiger. Looking at the village in front of him, Douluo's eyes were full of surprise. He didn't expect that such a dilapidated small village would actually have a soul saint. But, just for a soul saint? When he came back to his senses, Douluo couldn't help but shake his head, thinking that there were other hidden things inside. After all, this guy looks down on me a little. Could it be that I'm a mighty titled Douluo, but I don't have a little soul saint? Yes, there must be something hidden in it. Hearing Douluo's words, Xian Ringsu's expression also changed. She raised her head and looked at Suzanne. Seeing that he didn't refute, there was also a flash of interest in his eyes. He led Xian Ringsu into the village, and then the group entered Shrek Academy. Different from the bustle of Xiandao City College, the college seemed very deserted. It seemed sparsely populated and eerily quiet. Those who didn't know better thought that no one lived there at all. What are you doing in the academy? Seeing someone stepping into the academy, a man of about 13 years old suddenly walked in with wary eyes. Glancing at Xian Ringsu, the man's eyes flashed with surprise, and then returned to normal, without any evil. Come and visit. I believe your dean will welcome you, Suzanne said bluntly. Visit? The man was stunned. Just when he was about to angrily refuse, a gentle and hoarse voice sounded. It is an thought honor for our college to have distinguished guests come to our door. Please ask for recommendation votes, monthly votes, rewards, and automatic subscription. Chapter 107. He is a good talker, and angrily criticizes Flanders. Call out. A sound of galloping pierced the sky, and a figure was seen falling from the sky. The man is about 40 years old, wearing coarse cloth style clothes. The man wears a pair of glasses, a hooked nose, and bright eyes that give people a sense of wisdom. Along with the man, there was a muscular man with a short shaved head, who looked short and stocky, with bulging muscles and broad shoulders, which made his head look a little small, which was a bit funny. The dean of Shrek Academy, Flanders, and the deputy dean Xiao Wuji. Flanders, the dean of Shrek Academy, do you know the names of these 3 distinguished guests? Shaking his head at Xiao Wuji, Flanders covered his chest with his right hand and greeted him respectfully. Flanders, one of the Golden Triangle? Before Suzanne could speak, Douluo's voice rang out. He had his hands behind his back, looking at Flanders with a proud but curious attitude. I wonder who you are? Flanders didn't seem too surprised to be recognized, and his expression became more respectful. Facing Douluo, he could feel the oppression from the high-level soul master. Although the former's soul power was restrained, this sense of integration was not deceiving. The person in front of me is at least a contra, or even, a titled Douluo. I'm Douluo. Douluo replied calmly with a calm expression. Boom. When these words fell, it was like an alarm bell exploding in my mind, turning the world upside down. Although they had been prepared for a long time, Flanders and the two were still shocked when they heard that it was the titled Douluo coming. It turns out to be Senior Poison Douluo. Flanders has missed his welcome. Please forgive me, Senior. Hurriedly saluted again. Flanders bent down deeper, and the same was true for Xiao Wuji on the side, who did not dare to neglect at all, and could not be more honest. Douluo. Bo replied calmly, without seeming to have much enthusiasm, and then looked at Suzanne. If it weren't for him, even if he was in the Golden Triangle, it would still not be worth his while to come to this remote village. With his eyes focused, Flanders followed Douluo's gaze, his eyes fixed on Suzanne, and he was even more curious about Suzanne's identity. Being able to be accompanied by a titled Douluo, this person's origin is definitely not simple. However, why did the other party say nothing and seem to be in a daze? Seeing Suzanne touching her chin and being lost in thought, Flanders twitched the corners of his mouth, not wanting to interrupt. However, the playful look on Suzanne's face made him panic, as if he was being targeted by some wild beast. Suzanne is not in a daze, but is thinking about a problem. That is he going to blow up Shrek Academy with one shot? 5 people will definitely not be able to become gods in the future, lest someone cause trouble for him and destroy his wife's dowry. What's wrong? While Suzanne was thinking, Xian Ringsu pushed him and reminded him in a low voice, and Suzanne suddenly came back to his senses. Dean Flender, wouldn't your mind showing us around the college? Suzanne smiled and said harmlessly. After thinking for a moment, Suzanne decided to forget it. Since he came out this time, he might as well solve the problem from the source. Shrek, let's cultivate talents for the empire. Seeing Suzanne's refreshing smile, Douluo suddenly felt relieved. He didn't know where this feeling came from. Of course you can. Flanders replied with a smile, then extended his hand to invite Suzanne and others to walk in front, and accompanied the 3 of them on a tour of Shrek Academy. Shrek Academy is very simple. It is a slightly renovated house in the village. It is simple and has a sense of tranquility. You are not afraid of being disturbed by outsiders when you practice and study here. Dean Flanders, I wonder why you founded the academy here? Suzanne asked, pretending to be curious. It's purely a personal ideal. My Shrek Academy only recruits monsters for the purpose of cultivating geniuses. It's better to have a shortage than to have too much. Flanders had a smile on his face and couldn't help but feel a little proud as he spoke. Shrek Academy was different from other academies. His target was a monster genius only. Recruiting monsters. Hearing this, Xian Ringsu and Douluo, who was walking at the front, narrowed their eyes and seemed to have some interest. Since the academy is a place where knowledge and experience are taught, shouldn't it promotes teaching without distinction? Why are there still levels? After a slight pause, Suzanne's eyes became a bit colder. Shrek Academy doesn't look like a noble academy to me. Could it be that Dean Flanders looks down on ordinary soul masters? The words were thorny, and Suzanne's tone was more like questioning. His Flanders suddenly felt a chill on his back, and then quickly waved his hand. I'm definitely not looking down on ordinary soul masters. It's just that the academy's philosophy is different. Are you kidding? He looks down on ordinary soul masters. If the statement were to spread, anyone in the soul master world could drown him with just a spit of spit. After all, 99% of soul masters came from ordinary soul masters, and he didn't dare to provoke the wrath of heaven and people. So that's the case. But if the academy only cultivates geniuses, then the existence of the academy doesn't seem to have much meaning. So Xian was not ready to give up. He had to straighten Shrek Academy and spoke again. Appreciate further details. I don't know where I offended Suzanne. Flanders was a little angry inside, but he was still kind and polite on the outside. He said, since they are monster geniuses, their future achievements are already higher than those of ordinary soul masters. The advantages that the academy gives them are not much greater than those of other academies. In this way, the soul masters trained by the academy will always be successful. From the perspective of the academy, your contribution is no more than others. But if the students become the pinnacle of the soul master world, they will bring countless honors to the college. This is more like the college investing in the strong men of the future, isn't it? Suzanne replied coldly, his eyes like swords, as if he wanted to cut Flanders' trachea open. This latter suddenly felt difficulty breathing, and began to breathe quickly subconsciously. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He was under great pressure for a while. Seeing Flanders hesitating and speechless, Suzanne suddenly sneered inwardly. Although what he said seemed a bit harsh, and he one-sidedly ignored the abilities of the Shrek Academy teachers. but in comparison, the abilities of teachers at Shrek Academy are no better than those at Xian City's top colleges in the later period. It was mainly the Master Syrian Tang San's leadership that brought Shrek Academy to glory point as for Flanders and Xiao Wowki. One manages funds and the other is a school thug. Moreover, the future Shrek Academy will still be transformed due to war needs, haha. It seems that the early investment received returns and honors, which led to the rise of the college and finally dominated the pinnacle of the college. Xian did not believe that the shrewd Flanders did not consider this aspect when he established Shrek Academy. Is it possible that he really just wants to cultivate monster geniuses? To be honest, Xian didn't believe it. Chapter 108 Shrek Academy Restructuring. Is it possible that he is really investing in a strong person in the future? Hearing Xian's words, Xiao Wuji's expression became strange. Looking at Flanders, who was dripping with cold sweat, he felt that his tall figure was no longer so tall. Looking at the suspicious eyes around him, Flanders was speechless and couldn't say a complete sentence. At the beginning, he founded Shrek Academy purely to escape and to make a name for himself among the three. Later, when my mind slowly calmed down, I began to truly build everything in Shrek Academy. Due to lack of funds, he could only choose the best among the best, and finally found that monsters were the best choice. That's right. In addition to funds and ideals, he does have selfish motives. He dreams that one day, monsters from Shrek Academy will be able to roam the mainland and bring honor to him and the academy. Therefore, his goal of recruiting students was fixed on the word monster, but he is definitely not doing it for personal gain. Taking a deep breath, Flanders' face became much calmer. He looked at Xian with deep eyes and sighed. Your Excellency's words are indeed sharp. Flanders is willing to give in, but if you still think that Shrek Academy is nothing more than this, I have nothing to say. I admit that I have selfish motives, but Shrek Academy is also my own ideal. With blazing eyes, Flanders did not want to be outdone and directly met Xian's gaze. At this moment, he did not flinch at all. Good. Hearing this, Xian couldn't help but applaud. Ideal is a noble word, and selfishness is not selfish in front of it. However, this still cannot change his determination. Shrek Academy must serve the Empire, Dean. Flanders' words are thought-provoking, but I was a little abrupt just now. After replying slightly apologetically, Xian continued, but has Shrek Academy been officially recognized? If it's correct, it doesn't have the qualifications for a high-level Soul Master Academy. To recruit monsters so blatantly is not a blatant provocation to the Empire. As a prince, Xian still understands the laws of the Empire. Individuals can indeed establish a college and enroll students, but they need to be recognized by the Empire's official qualifications. It would be fine for a Sanwu Academy like Shrek to simply recruit some ordinary rural soul masters to contribute to the Empire. But once it involves high-level genius soul masters, the nature is different. To put it nicely, it's called disobeying imperial decrees. To put it mildly, it is called deception and abduction, threatening the order of the Empire. Even worse, it's called a conspiracy to recruit soul masters with evil intentions. All in all, such 3 no colleges should have been banned long ago. Shrek Academy can exist all the time. Firstly because it is remote, and secondly, it is probably because of Flanders' manipulation. I wonder who you are? Seeing that Xian suddenly touched the pain of Shrek Academy, Flanders also became embarrassed and raised his hand slightly. There is no other way. Applying for qualifications for the Soul Master Academy requires a deposit, but he has no money. In addition, given the environment of the academy, if he wanted to apply for academy qualifications, no one would care about him. The eldest prince of the Xiandao Empire, Xue Qinghe. Xian grinned, showing his white teeth, with a harmless look on his face. PFFT. Hearing this, Xiao Wuji on the side was startled, and then immediately laughed. Under the threat of Flanders' fierce gaze, his shoulders kept shaking, and he could only suppress his laughter. Sanwu Academy, suddenly faced with the official. This is a very cool rhythm. Before, Flanders had sworn that there would be no problem, and that he could handle it easily, so let's get over it now. Forgive him for smiling and kindly. Ahem. I still have something to do. Dean, please accompany His Highness. I'll leave first. The more he thought about it, the more he couldn't help it. Xiao Wuji hurriedly replied and ran away immediately. He is just the deputy dean, so let the principal handle this kind of thing. He is such an old fool. Yes, he believed he could handle it. It's up to you, friend, depend on you unfaithful guy. Seeing that Xiao Wuji had run away like this, Flanders suddenly felt a lot of pressure, and he greeted his relatives inwardly. With his mouth slightly open, Flanders looked at Suzanne awkwardly, his face full of embarrassment. MMP. He opened the academy in this damn place, and yet he was able to explode the prince. He was really unlucky for 8 lifetimes. What to do? Isn't the college really cool? Damn it, I paid them some wages the day before yesterday, but suddenly I feel like I'm losing money. I didn't expect His Highness to be here. The academy is really flourishing, Flanders said in a trembling voice with his mouth trembling. Dean Flanders hasn't told me yet whether Shrek Academy has official qualifications, Suzanne reminded kindly. Friend, are you qualified or not? Don't you have any idea in your mind? Depend on. The prince has come to this remote place to fight, and he still has a hammer to use for his quibbles. Your Highness, please tell me directly. What do you want? MMP. Inside, but on the outside Flanders looked like he had no love left in his life and resigned to his fate. I can let Shrek Academy have the qualifications of an advanced Soul Master Academy and let the Empire provide some financial support free of charge. However, your enrollment conditions need to be relaxed and you should cultivate as many talents as possible. Suzanne said bluntly. Shrek Academy is also a good academy and can train Kinming, but Suzanne will never allow it to exist based on the principle of better to lack than to abuse. Strong men can appear from various places, but they can never appear from one place. This will create hidden dangers for the Empire. He does not want to build Shrek Academy into another top force point to teach. You can. The requirements are stricter than other advanced Soul Master academies, and you can only be an academy led by the Empire from beginning to end, not an independent force point. He didn't want the Shrek 7 monsters to be combined into 2 sects and 1 empire. The Empire had no shortage of talents. With him here, there would be no surprise. Flanders was originally very happy when he heard about it, but he couldn't accept the relaxation of admission requirements. The purpose of his creation of Shrek Academy is to cultivate monsters and follow the principle of err on the side of shortage. Now if you don't agree, I will, in the name of the Empire, declare to all major colleges that Shrek Academy is running schools in violation of the order. Seeing Flanders' hesitation, Suzanne's face darkened, and he reminded him coldly. No, I promise. Hearing this, Flanders suddenly turned pale with fright. He didn't care much and quickly agreed. He has been running Shrek Academy for 10 years. If his reputation becomes bad, it will not only be his problem, but also the future of the graduating students. After all, this is a stain. Looking forward to the stars and the moon, hoping that they would become famous and bring honor to the college. But in the end, the college collapsed. What a big deal. Today I'm proud of the college, but tomorrow I will be ashamed of the school. Depend on. Don't play like this. Thanks to Feng Lingsu for the reward. Please vote and subscribe. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109: The Correct Way to Open a Robbery. After finalizing the affairs of Shrek Academy, Suzanne did not stay at Shrek Academy anymore. It was too deserted and boring. Without the 7 monsters, Suzanne felt that there was nothing to see. He didn't come to see Flanders. Well, the scenery here is more beautiful than him. I don't understand why you care about this college. I don't see anything special about him. On the way, Xian Ringsu looked at Suzanne curiously, always feeling that the other person's behavior today was a bit strange. Hearing this, Douluo also glanced back at Suzanne. He was also quite confused. Although the purpose of Shrek Academy is different, such an academy is just that. Why bother to come in person? Moreover, it also delays my robbery time. Isn't this just walking me around? There's really nothing special about the college. It's just that teacher Kinming graduated from here, so I wanted to come and have a look. Suzanne replied calmly. Kin Ming, hearing this, Kinming Su immediately remembered the man they met in the soul fighting arena. The man seemed to be a teacher from the Royal Academy. He actually graduated from here? Kinming Su frowned obviously, feeling that something was wrong, but she couldn't tell. Seeing Kinming Su's frown, Suzanne turned around and lightly tapped her forehead. It's better to let men do some things. Don't think too much, otherwise it's easy to get older faster. Facing Suzanne Ming's sparkling eyes, Kinming Su's heart moved. She nodded blankly and couldn't help but tighten her arms. Seeing Kinming Su's cute pout, Suzanne rubbed her head and looked at Shrek Academy out of the corner of her eye. 7 monsters, there won't be any more, muttering something in his heart. Suzanne then looked at Douluo and said with a smile, old poisonous guy, let's go. Let's watch you rob, and I'll teach you some necessary skills. Helping others is what he should do. A look of surprise flashed in Douluo's eyes, and then he said arrogantly, I'm a dignified Douluo. Do you still need to teach me about robbery? What a joke. You're a dignified and titled Douluo, but you haven't even done something worth robbing. What do you have to be proud of, Su? Xian rolled his eyes and replied, while Kinming Su beside him couldn't help laughing, with a playful smile on his lips. She had seen titled Douluo rob treasures before, but this was the first time she saw titled Douluo rob gold coins. This is considered a first for poison Douluo. What do I want you to do? Thinking of the reason for his gold coins, Douluo suddenly became angry and shouted coldly, very meow. It wasn't your kid who did it. If it weren't for the purpose of possessing a soul bone, would he have done such a shameful thing? However, robbery is really delicious. He must explain it here. You don't want free teaching, you deserve it, and you can't make a fortune. Shaking his head in disdain, Suzanne then took out the carved dragon mask and put it on his face. Kinming Su smiled and did the same thing, obviously knowing Suzanne's nature. Half an hour later, 3 figures entered the city lord's mansion. You are the lord of Soto City, Gutong, right? Douluo killed all the way to the main hall, his hair flying, and his whole body exuding an indescribable domineering aura. His eyes were locked on a middle-aged man who was about to escape. Gutong, meet senior poison Douluo. His body froze. Gutong turned back obediently. His pale face was helpless and frightened. His legs and feet felt extremely cold, and he could not help but tremble. You must know why I came here, right? Douluo sat down calmly and said calmly, this. Gutong's eyelids twitched suddenly, and he was extremely conflicted. The news of Douluo's robbery of the city had already reached Soto City, and he had been living in fear for the past few days. He was overjoyed when he finally heard the news that Douluo had entered the city and left again, unexpectedly. Woo, he still couldn't escape this disaster. Gilu, since Senior needs it, I will do my best to satisfy Senior. Seeing Douluo's cold and oppressive gaze, Gutong swallowed his saliva in fear and quickly promised. Hearing this, Douluo nodded with satisfaction, and then said coldly, why are you still standing there? Why don't you quickly exchange all the gold coins and treasures in the warehouse for gold cards for me? Yes, I'm going. Gutong trembled in his heart and left the hall in a panic. I don't know. Do you have anything to teach me? With a slight smile on his lips, Douluo's eyes flashed with pride, and then he looked at Suzanne, who was beside him. His eyes seemed to say, what's so difficult about robbery? For me, it's easy to do it. You can continue reading later. Seeing Douluo's arrogant look, Suzanne couldn't help but shook his head. Why are there always idiots who feel good about themselves? HMPH. Hearing this, Douluo smiled casually and didn't care at all. He only knew that he was about to receive a huge sum of money again. Tap tap tap. He's coming. He comes with money. After a while, Douluo immediately became happy when he saw Gutong walking into the hall in a panic and fear. Senior, here are 5 million gold coins. Please accept them, Senior. Gutong respectfully handed over the gold coin card. Hearing this, Douluo's face condensed and suddenly became gloomy. Soto City is one of the main cities, and its inventory only has 5 million gold coins. The voice was like thunder, and Douluo seemed to have been humiliated and deceived. His words smelled like gunpowder, as if they would explode at any time. To be honest, senior, the inventory was mobilized by miking to the front line to suppress the rebels a few days ago, and there are really only these 5 million left. Gutong cried, almost crying. Hearing this, Douluo then remembered that Soto City was very close to the border and would definitely be affected by the war. He gritted his teeth and looked very unhappy. Point depend on, my huge wealth has disappeared like this. What? Bad luck. Douluo cursed inwardly, took away the 5 million and left directly, as if he didn't want to stay here for a second longer. Seeing Douluo leave, Gutong breathed a sigh of relief, but when he noticed that Suzanne had not left yet, his expression suddenly became tense again. I wonder if you two have anything else to do? Gutong asked cautiously. I've been short of money recently, and I plan to borrow some money from you. It's up to you how much you can borrow. Xian said leisurely. His tone was neither cold nor hot, but it gave people a sinister feeling. Call out. After speaking, Suzanne directly threw a blank diamond gold card to Gutong. This. Gutong was stunned, his face full of pain. You also saw that the treasury of the city lord's mansion has been emptied. How can we still borrow money? There is really no money in the warehouse. It's fine if you have money, right? Suzanne replied with raised eyebrows. Gutong, I have a saying that I don't know if I should say it or not. Chapter 110. Douluo, let me teach you. Ever since he heard that Douluo had robbed the treasury, Suzanne knew that this guy had no real experience. How much money was there in the treasury? This is just like the ancient government. Most of the money in the treasury is for show. As the saying goes, after 3 years of clearing the prefecture, 100,000 snowflakes of silver will be so fat that the official himself will always be fat. The treasury was empty, so they tried to find ways to plunder people's wealth to fill it, and the reason was very clear. Titled Douluo's robbery of money made it impossible to maintain the basic operation of the city. Douluo's robbery actually hurt the people, but robbing the city lord's embezzled money is different. He can't just talk nonsense after robbing him, but he has to be careful when searching for people's money. This is the way to go. You don't need to teach yourself to be stubborn. You deserve to be a poor guy. What? Do you think titled Douluo is easy to fool, right? With a cold look on his face, Suzanne roared, I'm telling you, if the numbers above are unsatisfactory, don't blame me for not reminding you. Perhaps you should have heard of his deeds of poisoning an entire city by one person. Patting Gutong's shoulder, Suzanne smiled broadly, as if he was helping him recall some things. There is no way. As time goes by, some people's memories are not very good. One person poison own city. Hiss, I don't know. How many do you need? Gutong swallowed hard, his teeth were trembling, and he asked in panic. Then, it depends on how sincere you are. Xian smiled and said, leading Xian rinks you to sit down aside. Looking confident. Gutong, I'm so sincere. Damn it, that's all your own money. What's wrong? Is there any problem? Just. As Gutong was hesitating, the familiar word suddenly rang out again, as if urging him to die. Turning around, he saw Douluo, who had already left, walking in again. His face seemed to be covered with ice that had not melted for thousands of years, and it was extremely gloomy. No problem, no problem. Thinking that Douluo was talking to him, Gutong was frightened to death, and ran to get the money. Seeing Gutong's panicked look, Douluo was immediately confused. He just saw that Suzanne was in there, and couldn't come out, so he wanted to see what tricks he was up to. What a ghost are you afraid of? How is this going? Douluo asked as his eyes picked up Gutong, who had disappeared from the door. Isn't this how to borrow some money from him? Looking at Douluo, the muscles on Suzanne's face couldn't help but beat, as if he couldn't help but want to laugh. Old poisoner, I wonder if you can still be so calm later. Wahahaha. Borrow money. Douluo's face suddenly twitched, but he still sat down to see what Suzanne was going to do. After a while, Gutong ran back in a panic, his face full of fear and anxiety. Ahem. Seeing Gutong running towards Douluo, Suzanne stopped him halfway and said, "Give it to me." Reluctantly taking out the diamond gold card, Gutong was also secretly looking at the expressions of Suzanne and Douluo, his expressions very reserved. "It's only 5 million. You've been operating in Soto City for so long, and you only have this little money?" Looking at the numbers above, Suzanne raised his eyebrows, with frost between his brows, and pretended to be angry and roared, "Sir, I really don't have any extra money. I usually like to go to the soul fighting arena to gamble and fight. This money is still my capital in the cash box." Tong explained quickly. Tears almost came out as he spoke. Her pitiful appearance was very similar to that of a weak woman. Phew, after hearing this, Douluo spit out a sip of tea. Looking at the two of them, his chest felt tight. It was as if there was a mouthful of old blood suppressed in the trachea, neither up nor down, and his face was even redder from the suffocation. MMP. It turns out that you, the city lord, are so rich. I'm so rich. When he thought that the city in front of him had only robbed the treasury, Douluo suddenly felt like he had lost hundreds of millions of blood. Damn it. This is so fucking painful. Forget it. 5 million is just 5 million. Without giving Douluo a chance to grab it, Suzanne directly put the gold card away. Let's go. Waving his hand to Douluo, Suzanne took Kan Ringsu and left quickly, leaving only bursts of joyful laughter lingering in the hall. Douluo. Damn it. Looking at Gutong, the lord of Soto City in front of him, Douluo's mentality was completely shattered, and he wished he could kill him with one palm. Boom. The soul power all over his body was raging like a tornado in the main hall, and traces were drawn on the surrounding walls. Gutong was horrified and hurriedly covered it. Snort. After a while, I only heard a cold snort like thunder coming from my ears. Everything slowly returned to calm, and Douluo's figure disappeared. Tick tick tick. The hall suddenly became quiet, and only the crisp ticking sound could be heard in the ruins of the hall. Gutong's palms were dyed green, and green liquid mixed with blood flowed from the fingertips. After leaving the city lord's mansion, Suzanne heard heart-rending roars coming from behind him. He shook his head, but his heart was still calm. Douluo also followed, his face expressionless, his face turning dark and purple, and his whole person exuded a sense of resentment, as if the baby is in pain. "Don't disturb me. I told you to teach you some robbery skills, but you still don't listen. You must be at a disadvantage now." Suzanne sighed. Hearing this, Douluo still walked alone, as if he didn't hear anything. He was so lonely that he was left alone and out of tune with this world. Alas, poor child. Seeing Douluo like this, Suzanne felt this guy was his bread and butter. How could he let him continue to be so decadent? "Do you need me to teach you the ultimate secret of robbery so that you can have a good harvest in the future?" Suzanne said again. Hearing this, Douluo's heart moved. His face seemed to have some inconspicuous changes, and his pace slowed down very seriously. Every time you take a step, you gain wisdom. Seeing Douluo's actions be so honest, Suzanne was also amused inwardly, but on the surface he still looked enigmatic and said slowly, "Robbery means the threat of force. It is the most direct way to make money. Its essence lies in controlling the other party's psychology. It's extremely stupid to directly rob the treasury by naming them like you do. This way the other party has too many ways to deceive. After all, how do you know how much money the treasury has? I will teach you a trick. Next time you go to rob, you only need to sit down in the main hall, throw out a gold coin card, and then close your eyes and relax. I guarantee that the amount on the gold card will get bigger and bigger." "You sure?" Douluo's face hardened, and he seemed to think it was reasonable, so he humbly asked for advice. "Suzanne, after the identification, Douluo has a higher IQ than Zhu Wuji. Of course, my teacher has never lied to you before." Suzanne said plausibly. No. "When did I become your master?" Douluo shouted angrily. "Teacher, you should preach, learn karma and resolve doubts. Wasn't I teaching you just now? Go away. When did I want you to teach me?" Suzanne, men are indeed ruthless. Please recommend votes, monthly votes, rewards, and subscribe. Chapter 111. The army is attacked. Fresh vegetables are always in short supply in the army. Just as the army was resting, Suzanne bought some pastries and vegetables in Soto City, planning to make a delicious meal by himself. As for Douluo, the old guy has disappeared. He has probably returned the same way and plans to loot again. Titled Douluo can fly, which is awesome. Anyway, he can go back and forth quickly and doesn't consume any fuel. When we returned to the military camp, it was already evening, and the army would rest here for the night. Not only ordinary people, but even soul masters could not bear the continuous march. Taking advantage of this period of time, Suzanne also had time to prepare his own ingredients. There were a lot of meat products in the army. Suzanne simply mixed some condiments and mixed them with vegetables to prepare a hot pot meal. I've never heard of you actually being able to cook. Inside the tent, Xue Qinghe's eyes were shining when she saw Suzanne's expert chopping techniques, and her face was full of surprise. At first, when she heard that Suzanne was having a dinner, she thought she was letting the chef from the military camp cook it, but she didn't expect that it was actually him who went into battle himself. Nangang Qiu glanced at Suzanne in surprise, frowned and said nothing. She had known about this for a long time. If you want to keep a woman's heart, you must first keep her stomach. This is not just talk, Suzanne said seriously. So sir. Xue Qinghe suddenly became expressionless, looked at Suzanne and Xian, and uttered 2 words with envy and resentment to express her protest. I think King is right. Qinghe, you can also learn how to cook. Xue nodded, but her words were full of profound meaning, as if she was reminding someone that they had reached the age of marriage. The simple hot pot dishes were quickly prepared. Although the seasonings were not in place, the taste was acceptable to Suzanne. It was also the first time for Xue and the others to come across this way of eating, and the food was actually sweet and delicious. Perhaps it was due to the boredom of the march, and they were all burning in their hearts and needed spicy food to vent it. All in all, after a hot pot meal, several people's mouths were red and swollen, and they were not used to the spicy and hot taste. Impact night. The sky is filled with stars, and the round bright moon is bright and yellow. The tranquility of the night belongs to everyone. Suzanne lay on the grass and looked at the moon in the sky quietly, feeling peaceful inside. If I remember correctly, this was the 13th day since he traveled through time point. Whether you have traveled through time or another, it's a new life, a new beginning. Destiny is sometimes unpredictable. Your current soul power should have reached level 40. The soft words rang in her ears. Suzanne tilted his head and couldn't help but laugh. Xian was extraordinarily beautiful at this moment. She was dressed in a royal dress that was holy and elegant. Under the moonlight, she looked as bright and moving as a fairy. I have broken through to level 40 after sleeping in the past 2 days. I need to hunt a soul beast to break through to the soul sect. Suzanne replied leisurely with his hands on his head. In his current situation, with the blessing of 2 external soul bones, the 4th soul ring can completely absorb the 10,000-year soul ring. It's a coincidence that there are 30,000-year-old soul beasts in his system space seal. There are 50,000-year-old soul beasts, and there are 200,000-year-old soul beasts, but there really are no 10,000-year-old soul beasts. As for the 1,000-year-old, Suzanne felt that the grade was a bit low. Although the level of his swan martial spirit was originally low, he could not continue to abuse himself. It just so happens that my soul power has broken through to level 10 now. We can hunt soul beasts together. Sitting down next to Suzanne, Xian narrowed her eyes into crescent moons and spoke with some joy. Her crescent-like eyes were bright and bright, as if the moon was somewhat eclipsed in front of her. The smile that spread out from the corner of his mouth was so warm and gentle that people couldn't help but feel fascinated. Ahem. But after hearing this, Suzanne coughed tightly. Looking at Xian with strange eyes, Suzanne was speechless when he saw that she was ignorant and expecting, and she didn't look like she was lying at all. I said, wife, you want to stay by my side. It's not like you take the initiative to lower your IQ. When the time comes, I really kill a 100-year-old spirit beast for you, and as soon as you absorb it, it will be completely exposed. Then, there will be a painful drama of the husband and wife's farewell, and then I will go into the Wuhan palace alone to steal my wife. This is too bloody. Should I make a movie or write a novel? Life is already very good now. Let everything take its course anyway. He won't let go, even if he is beaten to death. Let's talk about it after we get back. There are many soul beasts in the royal hunting ground, and we can find one suitable for us. His face suddenly returned to calm. Suzanne waved his hand and said, "Oh." Xian Ringsu nodded, and then lay down on her side. She spoke in unison and quietly enjoyed this unique tranquility. Sky point. The white moonlight shone brightly on their faces, and the breeze rustled across the grass. They felt a cool and comfortable feeling on their backs after a short rest. The army officially began to march towards Mo City the next day. There was a solemn look on all the faces, and they knew that there was a tough battle ahead. Marshal invites the governor to go to the camp. Suzanne happened to be playing a happy little game between husband and wife when Xian Ringsu was interrupted by a voice. Pulling off the note on his face, Suzanne straightened his clothes, then looked in the mirror and found that there were no obvious marks. Suzanne then stepped out of the carriage with confidence. Following Nangang Qiu to the Chinese army camp, Suzanne originally thought he was going to formulate a battle plan, but when he arrived, he realized that he was alone. "You go down first." Xuan waved his hand to Nangang Qiu with a serious face, and the latter immediately followed the order. Was no trace of hesitation on his face, and his cold expression was exactly like that of a real general, clean and neat, without any sloppiness. "Ahem, Marshal, are you looking for me?" Suzanne coughed twice and said awkwardly. The slight smile was immediately hidden. Xuan lowered her voice and asked seriously, "Tell me honestly, do you still have that kind of weapon there?" "What weapon?" Suzanne blinked his eyes, completely confused. "Citizen City, the city gate." Xuan reminded her with narrowed eyes. "Shouldn't you?" Before Suzanne could finish his words, a violent explosion suddenly rang out around them, shaking the mountains for an instant, and the two of them were startled by the movement. "What happened?" Xuan's expression suddenly changed, and regardless of Suzanne, his martial spirit was immediately released, and he flapped his wings and reached the sky. Suzanne also left the camp and looked at the rear of the army. The 2-kilometer long rear line was currently turbulent, with heart-rending shouts resounding, as if they were being massacred. Looking from a distance, Suzanne could vaguely see the flashing light of soul power, which was the soul master showing off his power. The black dots of figures in the sky also proved this. There seems to be a smell of blood floating in the air. There is still some water in the front. Maybe I want to write about daily life. After all, it is more tragic in the back. Please subscribe, vote monthly, and reward. Chapter 112. Fighting with roommates. Let's fight first. Looking at the team of soul masters behind them, Suzanne was speechless and helpless. Alas, there is no need to worry if the same roommates are at war with each other. Being able to send out a team of nearly 1,000 soul masters, Suzanne thought with his toes, and knew where they came from. Only Wuhan Palace. Nailan Xian King's matter was most likely instigated by Wuhan Palace. Naturally, they didn't want the empire to suppress it quickly. It was best to keep the stalemate going. But mother-in-law, please take it easy. This is your daughter's future dowry. Before we get married, all the dowry will be lost to you. If your endocrine system is too strong, and you really have too much time to do, you can go and mess around with the Star Luo Empire. Don't keep teasing your own people. Say, aren't you causing trouble for Xian Ringsu and me? At this moment, Suzanne was full of tangles in his heart. The palms and backs of his hands were full of flesh. If he killed them, wouldn't he be hitting his left hand with his right hand, and the pain would be his own? Woohoo, Slim Blue Mushroom. Looking at the situation on the battlefield, Xuan was already fighting with 2 Soul Douluo. Nangang Qiu and the 3 Legion commanders, the Soul Emperor, were dragging a Soul Saint, and the other Soul Masters were harvesting in the Legion. No matter, let's fight first. Most of those who died were innocent soldiers from the Xian Dao Empire. Suzanne's eyes narrowed, he gritted his teeth, and took a step forward. His figure had disappeared, and he didn't know where he went. In the sky, 3 contrasts were fighting. The sound of sonic booms was continuous. The release of terrifying soul power caused a vacuum in the battlefield below. The 2 contrasts in the Wuhan Palace were dressed in black, and their faces were covered by masks, making it difficult to see clearly. It seemed that they knew that Xuan was the commander of this trip, and they were both flying soul masters. One person's martial spirit is a goshawk, the other is a blue-feathered crane, plus Xuan's swan. The three colors of white, green, brown, and yellow intertwine and collide in the sky. Boom boom. The squeezing of soul power stirred up sparks in the sky. The three of them were all veterans, and the collision of soul skills was dazzling. It seemed that the sky was about to be shattered by the three of them. Just looking at it from a distance, the powerful and terrifying aura is frightening. Boom. The attacks were staggered, and Xuan flew down from the sky. Fortunately, he stopped his decline, otherwise it would not be optimistic if he fell down. Ling Lei, you two openly attacked the Imperial Army, aren't you afraid of the Empire's sanctions? Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Xuan looked at the battlefield below from the corner of his eye, gritted his teeth and roared. There are only 500 soul masters in the 150,000 strong army. They basically need one against two just like him. The situation is not optimistic. Xuan was also injured. The clothes on his left shoulder were torn into strips, and there was a deep claw mark bulging with blood, which kept falling from the air along his feet. Although Xuan's soul power is higher than the two of them, the attack power of the Swan martial soul is unbearable compared to raptors such as the goshawk, let alone one against two. Xuan, it's no secret that you are also a strong contra player. Don't you think it's ridiculous to use the Empire's decrees on our status? The voice was full of contempt and extremely arrogant, making Xuan's face turn purple and turn black. Indeed, the majesty of the current empire cannot make contra fear, which is also the pain of the Xian Dao Empire. In the Soul Master world, strength has always been respected, unless the empire also has a titled Douluo. Haha, Xuan, you've had enough of this life. You'd better stay here today, without giving Xuan a chance to breathe. The 8th soul ring on the yellow-haired man Ling Lei suddenly lit up. A yellow soul power filled the air from his body, forming a mist that spread out. In the void, only goshawks could be seen condensing into shape. The goshawks were only the size of a bucket, much smaller than the man's martial spirit, but they were superior in number, as if they were entities. Dense feathers guard the body. The feathers at the tail end of the wings are very thin, but they are strong and sharp, like blades polished by fine iron. The two sharp claws under the body are even more cold, and even the blood does not leave red. Xuan, it's a long way to hell, so you have to go early. The man in green smiled slightly, licked the corner of his mouth with a sinister look. His eyes flashed with excitement, and his voice was also a bit sinister. The 6th soul skill, crane dances in the sky. The black 6th soul ring suddenly lit up, and in front of the man in green, a huge blue crane was formed, majestic, and his eyes were moving and shining with the light of wisdom. The meter-long beak was pointed at Xuan, like an arrow from a bow, as if it was going to penetrate Xuan. As soon as King came out, Xuan immediately felt a strong sense of crisis coming over him. He was even afraid of Lin Lei's 8th soul skill. That's right. This is a locked soul skill that cannot be avoided, and can only be resisted forcefully. And his current situation, damn it, seeing countless goshawks attacking like arrows, Xuan glanced at the battlefield behind him from the corner of his eye, and his expression suddenly twisted and became ferocious. That's right. That was where Nangan Qiu was fighting a soul saint. If he dodged, the attack would fall on them. This was obviously planned by Ling Lei. Boom. Gritting her teeth, Xuan's eyes suddenly turned blood red. The 6th and 7th soul rings on the soles of her feet suddenly lit up, and Xuan's face became as white as a piece of paper at a speed visible to the naked eye. He was originally injured, but now he maintains his martial soul true form. The 6th and 8th soul skills consume huge amounts of soul power, which is equivalent to using 3 soul skills at the same time. Boom. At this moment, there was a muffled sound, and the soul power in Xuan's body dissipated in an instant. Her eyes brightened, and she slowly fell down. Why are the elderly working so hard? It's not like they're being photographed. Seeing that Xuan only injured his left shoulder, and would recover for a while, Suzanne couldn't help but breathed a sigh of relief, and put away the sledgehammer in his hand. The figure suddenly disappeared, and in the blink of an eye he had arrived at the Chinese army camp. Grandfather, Zhu Bing burst into tears, and ran over quickly. Her delicate and elegant face was streaked with tears, which made me feel pity for her. After putting down Xuan, Suzanne disappeared in an instant. Boom. Suddenly, a sudden burst of white rays shone over the entire battlefield, and the rays rushed upward. Boom. The moment the yellow goshawk came into contact with the ray, it dissipated directly like sand meeting water, with a pop sound, without even a trace of soul power exploding. The same was true for the giant Xian crane that attacked the camp. Not a single bit of it survived, and it really looked like it was made of paper. Boom. Before everyone could regain their senses, a line of blood exploded suddenly in the attacking team of Wuhan Palace. The Soul Master's body, that was originally alive and kicking, was gone, and blood spilled all over the ground. The hot yet cold dripping blood was sprinkled on the faces of the Soul Masters on both sides during the conflict, making everyone feel chilled in their hearts. The changes in the sky also attracted everyone's attention. The two sides seemed to have a tacit understanding and couldn't help but start to retreat. While looking at the enemy, he looked at the shining figure in the sky. Chapter 113 Professional Funny Actor, Suzanne. I saw a white figure standing in the sky. Although it was just standing there quietly, the dead atmosphere was frightening. It can be seen that it is a human figure, wearing a white metallic armor, and the whole body is covered airtightly. The prismatic white metal was spliced together seamlessly, as if it were one whole body. There were small silver crystals between the links, and there was a fist-sized crystal in front of the man, which looked very mysterious. Who are you? Looking at the white figure, Ling and Leia's pupils shrank suddenly, and their bodies tensed up in an instant, ready for battle. Although he had never felt soul power fluctuations from Suzanne, he was able to withstand the 8th and 6th soul skills of the two, so he was obviously not an ordinary person. Standing out of thin air, titled Douluo. This immediately made them think of this sentence in their minds, but it didn't seem to be the case. After all, as members of the Spirit Hall, they were very familiar with the records of titled Douluo, and they had never heard of a titled Douluo dressed up like this. Not to mention Ling Lei and the others were confused. Even Nangan Qiu and the others were confused. They didn't know where this monster came from and why it wanted to help them. However, this person of unknown origin has greatly reduced their pressure, and they can at least take a breather. Choose one person and die. At this moment, Suzanne moved. He raised his finger slightly, and 4 large white characters appeared in the void. Not only the Imperial sergeants were shocked, but even the Wuhandian attack team was dumbfounded. What an arrogant tone. Your Excellency, if you are not from the royal family, I advise you to ignore this matter, otherwise you will easily get burned. Ling Leia's face was gloomy, and he warned coldly. King Yu on the side also came to Ling Leia's side, looking ready to fight at any time. Are you kidding me? As Spirit Douluo of the Spirit Hall, their status is second only to the elders. Asking them to choose one person to die is really a fantasy. Hey, you're threatening me, right? I like your domineering and unyielding look. Suzanne raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and his figure suddenly disappeared again. No one saw his movements, or even knew where he went. However, the pupils of Nangan Qiu and the others below shrank, and they looked horrified for a moment. In front of them, they saw a white figure standing quietly in the sky above the Soul Saint who was fighting with them, his armor shining brightly in the sunlight. Boom. They didn't see him take action, only heard a dull and heavy sound, and then the scene in front of the 3 people was drowned by a burst of dust. The loud noise also attracted the attention of others, especially the Ling who were in the sky and could see it more clearly. The ground with a radius of 10 meters in front of Nangan Qiu and the others seemed to have been violently attacked by the outside world and actually collapsed in the deep pit. A figure lay motionless and quietly, with gurgling blood flowing out from under him. Shocking. In an instant, there was deathly silence, and you could hear a pin drop. There was a clear sound of swallowing from the Adam's apple in his ears, and Ling Lei swallowed subconsciously, his face full of fear looking at the figure in front of them, that seemed to have never moved. The two of them couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Horrible. It's really terrible. Even the two of them were unable to judge the trajectory of his movements due to their soul Douluo cultivation. Such speed and strength had never made them so afraid even when faced with ordinary titled Douluo. At this moment, there was only a feeling of despair in the hearts of the two of them, not to mention fighting. The two of them didn't even have a chance to escape. Choose quickly. The same font appeared in front of their eyes again, like a reminder, and Ling and Lei felt that their breaths were about to be frozen. With these two simple words, they could even feel each other's anger, as if they couldn't help but kill them both in the next moment. Without any intention of resisting, Lei Ying was about to beg for mercy when he suddenly felt a pain in his back. Then the sticky liquid stained his clothes and squirmed down his back. Yuling. Lei lowered his head and looked at his waist. He saw a long sword glowing with blood. His pupils suddenly shrank, and he looked at Qinghe in disbelief. "I'm sorry." A look of panic flashed in his eyes, but a relieved smile appeared on the corner of Qinghe's mouth, and a sinister voice rang out. "Your Excellency, please keep your promise." Ignoring Ling Lei, Qinghe looked at Suzanne and reminded him expectantly. Damn it. Seeing King Yu act so decisively, Suzanne was also startled and couldn't help but curse. Sure enough, the person stabbing you in the back is not only your enemy, but also your friend. Look, it's so simple. You can tell at a glance that this guy is willing to live as long as he can. Therefore, he had to give him a ride and send him back to the Wuhan Palace Mausoleum to stay. Boom. The white figure flashed away, and a figure fell like a meteor, hitting the ground without making any sound. Qinghe didn't know until her death why Suzanne chose to kill him instead of Ling Lei. Maybe it was fate. Those who want to die cannot die. Those who want to live cannot survive. Why? Holding the wound on his waist tightly, Ling Lei looked at Suzanne in bewilderment. If Suzanne was not afraid of exposing his voice, he would reply with a classic line, "I'm sorry, I'm an undercover." But now, it's obviously not possible. Ignoring Ling Lei, Suzanne focused on the big tree not far away. He slowly extended his palm, and a ball-shaped energy impact suddenly burst out. Boom. The big tree was directly smashed, and a large pit with a diameter of 20 meters was formed on the ground, and in the center was a black cave with a diameter of 5 meters that seemed to be bottomless. Smoke and dust rose up, mixed with wisps of black mist, both of which floated in the air together, unnoticed. You ran away quite quickly. The corner of his mouth was slightly raised. Suzanne's eyes were full of amusement, and he did not chase after him, just teasing him. "Oh, why do you need to force me to take action?" Seeing that the sole master of Wuhan Palace had wiped out 100 people by himself alone, Suzanne shook his head helplessly. Instead of being happy, he felt drained of blood. While the breeze blew by, and Suzanne's figure moved slightly and disappeared in an instant. Seeing this, Ling Lei also quickly ordered a retreat and did not dare to continue the attack. Seeing the team of black-clothed soul masters retreating, the soul masters of the Xian army breathed a sigh of relief and sat on the ground without caring about the blood and sweat on their bodies. Everyone looked at each other and then couldn't help but giggle. It seemed that the sun was not so cold anymore. If you attack the Imperial army, I will crush you to death. Suddenly, a sounded roar and once again attracted everyone's attention. In front of Qinghe's body, a young figure was seen holding a big stone to vent his anger. Ahem. What? I'm just in case he's not dead. However, as everyone's eyes swept over, the young man's movements froze, and then he silently threw the stone, as if nothing happened, and spoke seriously. Hearing this, everyone looked at Qinghe, who had changed beyond recognition, and his forehead was covered with black lines. Your Highness, are you a tease sent by the monkey? Exclamation mark. Chapter 114. The most beautiful person is in front of you. A few dozen meters away from the Chinese army camp, a carriage was guarded by sergeants. Xian Ringsu stood on the carriage in a long skirt, looking at the devastated land in front of her, smelling the choking air mixed with the smell of blood, and feeling mixed emotions in her heart. She was not a fool, so she naturally understood that this attack meant the collision between Wuhan Palace and Xiandao Empire. Alas, the long gaze seemed to hide endless thoughts, and finally turned into a long sigh. She was the only one caught in the middle, the one who least expected this to happen, but was now in a dilemma. Tap tap tap. Suddenly, there was a sound of rapid footsteps, waking her up immediately. Seeing that it was Suzanne who was coming back, Xian Ringsu couldn't help but breathed a sigh of relief. When she was about to greet him, she saw the former waved her hands quickly and then dove into the carriage. Well, caught off guard by Suzanne's unusual behavior, Xian Ringsu raised her hands in the air, feeling a little overwhelmed. Oh no, cow cough cough. There was a knocking sound inside the carriage, followed by a rapid coughing sound, as if something had happened to Suzanne. Feeling a little weird, Xian Ringsu got on the carriage immediately, only to see a scene that made people laugh and cry. Suzanne was seen holding a clay pot, his face pale and uncomfortable, and the sour smell of vomit quickly spread in the carriage. Well, seeing such a huge contrast, Xian Ringsu didn't know whether to cry or laugh. She wrinkled her nose subconsciously, but she didn't dislike anything. Approaching and gently patting Suzanne on the back, Xian Ringsu's eyes were gentle and kind. Her cheeks were smiling, like a mother caring for her son. You were so majestic and calm just now. I didn't expect you to be afraid of killing people. Xian Ringsu couldn't help but joke. After wiping the corners of her mouth, Suzanne sealed the porcelain jar and then leaned against the carriage, her mood still not very calm. Although Xue Qinghe had killed people before, as a subject, it was still the first time for him to face the cruelty and horror of blood and death. After all, killing people feels different from killing chickens, ducks, and fish, which is difficult to describe in words. Suzanne didn't have such a big reaction to the first two murders, because one of them was blown up by him with a time bomb, and the citizen defender was blown to ashes by the cannon. But this time, he was beaten with his fist, which caused the intestines to be broken, and the flesh to be bloody. If he hadn't endured the trick to finish it, so that no one would notice that he was missing, he would have vomited on the spot. He also couldn't understand why he felt so uncomfortable when he read novels in which the hero killed people and drank cold water. Is it possible that when I traveled through time, I didn't buy a VIP gift package? Ahem, thinking too much. Did you recognize me? Looking at Xian Ringsu, Suzanne asked curiously, but there was not much surprise in his eyes, as if he knew Xian Ringsu would recognize him. Well, even though you are wearing armor, your height and movements cannot be changed. Xian Ringsu's eyes sparkled, and she felt more at ease than ever before, and she replied with a smile on her lips. Of course, she also had great doubts and curiosity in her heart as to why Suzanne, who was just a soul master, could be so powerful. Eventually seemed to see the shadow of her grandfather Sendao Liu, which was incomparably powerful. I see. It was no surprise as he thought, so Suzanne couldn't help but nodded. Even though he didn't say a word, among all the people present, Xian Ringsu knew him best. If she couldn't guess it, then no one else could. Aren't you going to ask? Seeing Xian Ringsu staring straight at him, seemingly not intending to ask, Suzanne subconsciously spoke. Didn't you say that when you want to tell me, you will tell me yourself? Xian Ringsu replied, with a playful look in her watery eyes. Hearing this, Suzanne covered his heart with his left hand. His face was pale, and he seemed to be in great pain. What's wrong? Seeing Suzanne like this, Xian Ringsu was startled, and her face turned pale. Not caring about anything else, she quickly sat down, covering Suzanne's arm with her right hand, her face full of worry. Her right hand couldn't help but hug Xian Ringsu's shoulder. Suzanne looked uncomfortable, as if he was in great pain. Daughter-in-law, my heart has been sweetened by you. What do you think I should do, sweet? A series of questions flashed through Xian Ringsu's mind, and then she immediately realized what Suzanne was talking about, and Fen Quan couldn't help but greet her. You lied to me again. While muttering, Xian Ringsu relentlessly hammered Suzanne's chest. Her coquettish little girlish attitude made Suzanne's heart beat faster. How could I lie to you? You are already very sweet. Suzanne shook his head and retorted, looking at Xian Ringsu with ardent eyes. His left hand passed across her pretty face, first her white jade forehead, and then her beautiful nose. Finally, it stopped on her crystal soft bright red lips, and the index finger shook slightly, and the silky feeling went straight to the nerve endings. Suzanne could even feel the warmth on it, and suddenly couldn't put it down. You. Seeing Suzanne staring at her with fiery eyes, Xian Ringsu Fang's heart trembled, not knowing what bad intentions he had. Xian Ringsu pouted her lips in embarrassment. Her beautiful eyelashes trembled slightly. Her face was red with embarrassment, and she looked so weak that I felt pity for him. After rubbing Xian Ringsu's cute face and looking at her shy appearance, Suzanne did not take any other action and just looked at the beauty that belonged to him quietly. What's wrong, seeing Suzanne suddenly stop? Xian Ringsu was startled and raised her confused face. Point that look. Suzanne couldn't help but think about it, just like two people entering a bridal chamber. When they were about to go to the last step, the woman suddenly said what's wrong, and the man's heart was bleeding in an instant. Point here. Suzanne couldn't help but shudder, and Suzanne shook his head. It's nothing, it's just that I haven't recovered from it. If it weren't for the attention Xian Ringsu attracted, he would feel a little nauseous now. He couldn't bear to blaspheme the beauty. Lie down and feel more comfortable, or you can take a nap, Xian Ringsu reminded her considerately. Suzanne nodded, then shrank back slightly. Under Xian Ringsu's stunned gaze, his head lay on her smooth and tender thighs. Xian Ringsu, I asked you to really sleep, not on my lap. No, it seems there is an ambiguity in this statement. Seeing Suzanne's domineering look, Xian Ringsu was helpless and had no choice but to let him pillow her while she leaned against the carriage. Don't you want to sleep and rest? Seeing Suzanne staring at her blankly, Xian Ringsu waved her hand in front of his eyes and said angrily, I have fallen asleep, and I'm having the most beautiful dream in the world. In it is the most beautiful girl in the world, and she is right in front of me. Looking at Xian Ringsu lovingly, her sincere and smart eyes full of sweet smile, Suzanne murmured back. A sweet feeling of love suddenly flooded into her heart, so sweet that it made her numb, and Xian Ringsu suddenly became ashamed. He stared at Suzanne with both welcome and resistance. A charming look flashed across his brows, and for a moment, it seemed as if time had stopped. Point on Valentine's Day, the protagonist will accompany everyone to spread the dog food. Please subscribe, vote monthly, and reward. Chapter 115. The True Nature of a Man. Poison. Douluo returns. After the attack, under the arrangements of Nangang Qiu and others, the army began to clean up the battlefield and bury the bodies. Afterwards, the army moved forward for 3 or 4 miles, left the battlefield, and began to set up camp again. There is no way, whether it is morale or vitality, the army needs to be adjusted again at this moment. Otherwise, even if they arrive in Mochen at this moment, they will still be just a group of soft-footed sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Besides, several of them were injured and needed time to recover. The army has its own healing soul master, and the healing is fast. Xuan just consumed too much soul power, so the injury on his shoulder is not a problem. You said someone repelled the Wu black-clothed soul master team. After hearing everything that happened, Xuan looked at Zhu Bingning in disbelief. She originally wanted to say Wuhan Palace, but she immediately changed her mind. This kind of thing is difficult to say and cannot be said, even if there is evidence. Yeah, that person was very powerful. With just one blow, the man in green was knocked directly to the ground and lost his breath. His tone was filled with excitement, and a white figure flashed in Zhu Bingning's eyes. He was domineering and invincible, and she admired him endlessly. One strike. Hearing this, Xuan couldn't help but gasp, and killed Contra with one blow, which even an ordinary titled Douluo couldn't do. No wonder he didn't notice at all when he was hit with a sap. It turned out that the opponent was so strong. Can you see clearly who he is? Xuan asked hurriedly. He didn't want revenge, unless he was crazy. He just wanted to get in touch and see if he could win over the royal family's position. There is no way. Their royal family is too weak, not to mention the royal family of the Star Luo Empire. Even some of their dukes are not strong or weak. If there was a titled Douluo sitting in the royal family, it would bring an unparalleled sense of security to the empire. He was wearing armor, hiding his face, and didn't see his true appearance. Zhu Bingning shook her head and couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Such a hero is nameless and masked. It's a pity that we can't see his true face. Oh, that's a pity, Zhu. And couldn't help but shook her head in disappointment. She didn't expect the other party to be so mysterious. By the way, is King okay? After reacting, Xuan's heart trembled, and she asked again. He seems to be a little frightened, and is resting in the carriage. Zhu Bingning looked a little unnatural and explained hesitantly. She went to look at the carriage before, and saw the two of them enjoying each other's sweetness. Suzanne was still lying on Zua's lap, and Zua was massaging him with a rosy face. That scene almost made her sweet to death. She just retreated without asking anything. That boy, citizen did such a great job. Now he has learned to be afraid. Thinking that Xue Qinghe was covering for Suzanne, Xuan shook her head with a smile, her eyes filled with surprise. I can't wait to see Suzanne's frightened look. I think it will be very interesting. You'd better recuperate, Xue Qinghe reminded him angrily, looking at Xuan's arm, full of worry. Okay, my granddaughter has spoken. I, an old man, can't help but listen. Xuan said with a hearty smile. Point in the evening, the Chinese army camped. The army leaders discussed the situation of today's battle. Overall, ordinary sergeants suffered 25,000 casualties and more than half of the 500 soul masters were lost. Upon hearing this number, everyone was unusually silent, suppressing their emotions. The number of casualties was really too great, especially for soul masters, who were the Empire's foundation. 250 people were lost in one fell swoop, and Xuan couldn't help but feel itching with hatred. She wished she could pull out the body of the Soul Master of Wuhan Palace and whip him. Unfortunately, this doesn't help either. The army will rest for another night and attack Mochen directly tomorrow. Xuan's face suddenly condensed, and Xuan exuded endless killing intent, like a devil crawling out of hell, with blood-red eyes, and roared. Yes. Hearing this, the generals immediately took orders, their faces as serious as steel, and all of them carried an unfinished killing intent. Even though I know that the army is tired at the moment, there must be no more accidents on the road, otherwise there will be no need to fight this battle again. Watching the generals leave, Suzanne took out the gold coin card robbed from Soto City from the storage ring. Without any reluctance on her face, Suzanne handed it directly to Xuan's desk. Second Grandpa, this is 5 million from my personal sponsorship. It can be regarded as a pension for the fallen. The matter was irrelevant and relevant, but his conscience was troubled. Regardless of whether the Holy Mother is pretending to be kind, he thinks he should express something. 5 million is really not much. When the men at home and the men from my future mother-in-law's family fight, it's really who will die and who will be unjust. If he didn't suppress it bloodily, the two groups would have to fight to the death, which would be even more painful. However, Suzanne felt that he should give his mother-in-law Bibi Dang a heads up, so that she could see the situation clearly before talking about Wuhan Palace, which was causing trouble. Otherwise, the custom-installed soul-guided cannonball in his crotch would really be impossible to hide and would come out to show off. Brother, don't control it. This is the true nature of man. The cry of Chu from another world. Don't billion. Where did you get this money? Xuan asked with a frown. Go with the old poisoner. Before Suzanne finished speaking, a figure appeared in the camp in an instant. He sat down without saying a word and took a sip of tea, his chest heaving violently. Suzanne, damn it. If you really say KOKO is here, can you be more accurate? Looking at Douluo, Suzanne couldn't help but feel angry and roared. Old poisonous man, you've been here for so long to do a robbery. I asked you to be a thug, not to rob. If Douluo is among the army, the Wuhan Palace team will never dare to act rashly unless the secret ghost Douluo also shows up. But in this way, the wolf ambition of Wuhan Palace will be made public. After all, GUI is known to everyone on the road as the Elder of Wuhan Palace. I'm afraid this is also the reason why the ghost doesn't take action directly, just to guard against variables. HMPH. You are good at making sarcastic remarks. How can I escape from being entangled in Yiguan? Douluo shouted angrily. If he hadn't absorbed a soul bone, it's not certain that he would have been able to come back unharmed. Douluo is here too. Xuan's pupils shrank suddenly, feeling that things were getting more and more difficult. It was a bit unexpected, but Suzanne felt that it was normal. The two of them had always been in pairs, so it would have been strange if they hadn't come together. Chrysanthemum Douluo is holding back, while Ghost Douluo is holding back, which is really wonderful. Suzanne couldn't help but sigh secretly. You're not hurt. After his eyes wandered around Douluo for a while, Suzanne said in surprise. Douluo, damn it. When I heard what you said and looked at you with that look in your eyes, it seemed like you really wanted me to get hurt. Damn. HMPH. Although I have a lower soul power, I'm still a dignified titled Douluo. Douluo replied domineeringly. Suzanne, Please be wise and add the word weakest in front of title Douluo. Thank you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116 Strange Events on the Border. Emo City is located on the border between the Xian Empire and the Star Luo Empire. It is located in the Baloch Kingdom. It is the southeastern gateway of the Xian Empire, and is also located in the southeast corner of the Baloch Kingdom. More than 200 miles away to the northeast is the Star Forest, where the three major soul beasts gather, and to the southwest is Wuhan City. It is precisely because of its unique geographical location that Emo City has become a battleground for military strategists. No matter which side wants to attack the other party, it must capture Emo City. The next day, early in the morning, the army galloped, and by noon it had arrived 20 miles outside the city of Me. Unfortunately, all the scouts sent out long ago were stopped, and Xuan didn't know the situation in Mochen at the moment. It seems that someone specifically does not want the army to know the current situation in Mochen. However, when the army arrived at Emo City, they saw an incredible scene. On the city wall, flags were flying, and a black swan pattern came to life. The bright city wall did not seem to have any traces of war. What's going on? The Baloch Kingdom captured Emo City? Looking at the banner, Xuan and others' pupils shrank suddenly, feeling extremely surprised. Yes, this black swan is the symbol of the Baloch Kingdom, which is completely opposite to the royal family of the Xian Empire. But the scene in front of him was so unbelievable that, if seeing wasn't believing, even Xuan would think he was dreaming. Has the kingdom of Berek taken back the city of Me? How can this be? The Berek Kingdom's army has about 500,000 people, although its combat effectiveness is very strong. Zooming is not a full point. Given such an excellent opportunity to weaken the royal family, would he send troops to quell the rebellion himself? What's going on? If he can suppress Xian Qinghe, then what are their troops doing here? Just for sightseeing? Also, the scene in this city shows that it has not experienced a bloody battle. What on earth did Xian Qinghe's army do? Call after taking a long breath, Xuan's face became more solemn than ever. If it were a simple battle with Xian Qinghe, Xuan was 90% sure of winning. He would rather watch Emo City in Xian Qinghe's hands than see this scene in front of him. His intuition told him that there must be a conspiracy here. Well, there are always unscrupulous people who want to harm them. Suzanne also looked at Emo Chen curiously. At this moment, he was the center of attention. The golden light armor that is cut to fit very closely looks extremely luxurious and exquisite. Every bit of it can be called an excellent art. The golden armor reflected the sun's rays and shone brightly. When Suzanne wore it, he looked heroic and resplendent, arousing the pride of a handsome young man. If this happened in the future, he would probably not be able to come back after wearing it. He would have to be tortured to death by countless beauties in bed. Prince Xuan, this silent city has been captured by my army. Come here if you can help me. Suddenly a shout rang out, and a strong man's figure appeared on the wall. His muscles rivaled those of Zhao Wuji. Tiden, what happened in Mochen? Where did Xian Qinghe go? Zhu roared, with no trace of relaxation on his face. Hey sneers echoed outside the city gate, with a sly and smug smile on Tiden's face. Prince Xuan, Xian Qinghe has been defeated by my army. You are too late. Ha 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 ha. I guess Xian Qinghe has escaped across the border of the Star Luo Empire by now. This is impossible. Hearing this, Xuan retorted angrily. Not only did he understand Xian Qinghe's commanding ability, Zhu Yi also knew it very well. Otherwise he wouldn't have come this time. Even if he loses, he can't lose so quickly. Moreover, there is no reason for the Baloch Kingdom to send out hundreds of thousands of troops to fight just for the sake of a silent city. It takes the initiative to quell the rebellion for the Xian Empire. If he were zooming, he would never do this. He would definitely abandon Emo City and let Xian Qinghe attack the Xian Empire army, while he would reap the benefits. But everything in front of him didn't seem to be as he thought. The army obeyed the order and set up camp 5 miles outside the city. After Thinking about it, Xuan planned to station the army first, and then go find out where Nalan Xianqing had gone. I don't know Nalan Xianqing's recent movements. Everything is confusing. Watching Xuan retreat, Tai-Dun glanced to the southeast with a sneer on his lips. It's up to you to clean up the next mess. In the evening, Douluo, who was sent to investigate, flew back. Well, this was not what Xuan meant. It was Suzanne's order, isn't the old poisoner going out to work hard recently? Just let him go and see. It was originally just a joke, but Douluo actually took it seriously. And he agreed very quickly, without any complaint or resistance, which made Suzanne confused. It has been found out that it was Nalan Xianqing who took the initiative to withdraw from Emo City. At this moment, he is in the Star Luo Empire, fighting against the Star Luo Empire's army. Looking at Suzanne, Douluo's eyes flashed with unnoticeable fear, and then he replied truthfully, fighting in the Star Luo Empire. Hearing this, Xuan and Suzanne looked at each other in confusion. Damn it, aren't you a rebel? How did you end up fighting against the Star Luo Empire? Could it be that he was just like the armored warrior Lufa, planning to capture other places and then return to Airs for revenge? Suzanne found it unbelievable that Nalan Xianqing's 100,000 strong army dared to break into the Star Luo Empire. This was no different from a suicide attack. The strength of the Star Luo Empire is much higher than that of the Xiandao Empire. If Wuhan Palace hadn't suppressed it and prevented one side from getting bigger, I'm afraid the mainland would have been unified by the Star Luo Empire long ago. When you went to the Star Luo Empire, didn't you go into the camp to inquire about the specific situation? Suzanne couldn't help but remind him. Do you think I'm a stupid person? Of course I have figured out the matter. With a cold snort, Douluo immediately calmed down the anger on his face and then told the news he had learned from Nalan Xianqing's camp. It turned out that on the third day after the Nalan family was destroyed, when Nalan Xianqing received the news of the family's destruction, a group of royal guards also rushed to the military camp. They carried the personal decree of Emperor Xue, saying that the army had colluded with the Star Luo Empire and intended to rebel, and that they wanted to capture and strangle Nalan Xianqing and senior generals on the spot. Nalan Xianqing was furious, and the soldiers who followed the southern and northern wars were even more indignant. Then a civil war broke out, and the royal guards were destroyed. Nalan Xianqing's army was so furious that they directly captured Emo City and quickly occupied other surrounding small cities, intending to demand an explanation from the empire. But a day later, another team of royal guards arrived, and Nalan Xianqing finally knew that he had been fooled. Just when he was about to plead guilty, the Balik Kingdom's 200,000 troops appeared out of nowhere. In the name of suppressing the rebellion, they suddenly surrounded the city of Me, and they could only besiege but not attack. Subsequently, the military rations were destroyed, and the remaining grains in each house and room were confiscated in advance. Not a single grain was left. The army ran out of ammunition and food, and was completely desperate. In desperation, Nalan Xianqing turned to the border of the Star Luo Empire thanks to Yin Huang. Little lucky. For the reward, please recommend the useless monthly tickets and ask the rich woman to support me for a day on Valentine's Day. Chapter 117. A true warrior dares to face the bleak life. This is unreasonable. The Balik Kingdom is really bullying others. After hearing what Douluo said, Xuan was furious, like a flash flood, and his old face was as gloomy as water. But looking at those cloudy eyes, they were already blood red at the moment, like a bloodthirsty nightmare from hell, exuding extremely strong murderous intent. Even Douluo, who was killing people beside him, couldn't help but twitch his eyelids. As for Suzanne, his scalp was numb at the moment, and he felt a sense of fear in his heart, as if he felt suffocated. Feeling the same, he was also suppressing anger in his chest at the moment, as if a volcano was about to erupt. Who would have thought that the result of Nalan Xianqing's rebellion would be like this? It really makes people's hands and feet go cold. A general cannot die on the battlefield, his body wrapped in horse leather, but he dies due to machinations. That is absolutely extremely sad. One can imagine Nalan Xianqing's despair when his family was wiped out and he was slandered for rebellion. Revolt and seize the city. That was also a forced and helpless move. When the truth came and he knew he had hit the mark, Nalan Xianqing was already in a dilemma. Massacre of the defenders of Mi City is no different from rebellion. Even if he wants to surrender, the 200,000 barrack army around Mi City will not agree. He may also understand that the Baloch Kingdom's intention is to force him to go to the Star Luo Empire on purpose. But he still went because he has no other way to go. This is the only way to prove his innocence. Even point on the wall of Mo City, knowing clearly that it was the conspiracy of the Baloch Kingdom. Looking at the Baloch army in front of him, he did not dare to shout attack. Once they attack, it means they have really betrayed the empire and are the real rebels. It doesn't matter if he is dead, but the sergeants under his control are innocent, and their families are even more innocent. The families of the rebels, haha. Who will see what kind of good ending they will have. At this moment, Suzanne even thought of a picture. Under the setting sun, the weather-stained general bid farewell to his empire with tears in his eyes and left, resolutely and generously choosing to die. Dressed in a red robe, the face of a man named Zhang Xiandao is so cute, and his determination eyes hurt everyone's heart. They were running fast, feeling sad or happy, crazy, or crazy, with their backs turned to the red clouds. And in the end they left and never came back. The famous logician Lu Xun once said that true warriors dare to face the bleak life and face the dripping blood. Perhaps he is talking about people like them. What's the situation on the front line? How many troops does Xue Qinghe have? Slightly suppressing some anger, Xuan asked hurriedly. Out of emotion. He didn't want to care about whether the Xiandao Empire and the Star Luo Empire would fight over this matter. He only knew that the empire rode a large group of people, and those Xiandao Erlangs were all good people, and they should not have died in vain like this. Seeing that Xuan actually dared to yell at him, Douluo raised his eyes slightly, but after thinking about it, he decided to forget it. We are all old friends, and I'm generous, so there is no need to hurt the feelings of old friends over this matter. That's right. He is definitely not afraid of Suzanne, not even if he is beaten to death. It's hard to say what's happening on the front line. You'd better go and see for yourself, Douluo sighed and shook his head. Douluo pretended to be mysterious, but a deep sadness flashed in his eyes. He didn't know who he learned his acting talent from. Hearing this, Xuan was furious. What kind of answer was this? You were just teasing him. Send the order. The army will march to the Star Luo Empire at full speed immediately. The roar of Yao Yao's life spread, and the military camp suddenly became commotion, and everyone returned to their positions in an orderly manner. Old Poison, why are you hiding so far away? After leaving the handsome tent and seeing Scud Douluo walking behind, Suzanne raised his eyebrows slightly and asked, ahem. I just have some inconvenience in my legs and feet. Douluo waved his hands quickly. I've only heard that your hands will hurt if you count too much money, but I've never heard that your feet will hurt. Suzanne joked angrily, but he remembered that when Douluo came back, except for his unsteady breathing, nothing else happened. It's only been one night. Could it be possible that he counted the money with his feet last night? Hiss awesome. Douluo, depend on, your whole family only counts money with their feet. Am I that kind of money crazed person? It is a tradition to respect the elderly and love the elderly. Douluo thought about it and forgave Suzanne regardless of the villain's fault. Okay, in fact, he is just afraid. He does not have the kind of evil heart that can deceive himself. Alas, after he came back, he heard about the army that was attacked by a large number of soul masters. He was also shocked when he heard that Contra was killed instantly. Although titled Douluo is higher than Contra, even if he wants to kill a Contra, it will take some time. After that, he also went to see the situation at the scene. The bottomless pit deeply hurt his heart and made him understand the gap between the two. Without too much thinking, Douluo guessed and even affirmed that this cliff was Suzanne's handiwork, just like the soul-guided cannon point. Although this guy's hiding really deep, unfortunately he still can't escape my sharp eyes. Ha snort. No wonder he dared to challenge me to a duel before, but it turned out that he actually had such a trump card. It was really insidious. Fortunately, I wasn't fooled. Otherwise, I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. Douluo waved his hand to Suzanne, and when he left quickly, he ran faster than anyone else, making Suzanne's mouth twitch. I'm so excited. Is this the inconvenience you are talking about? The army directly entered the Star Luo Empire. After arriving in the Star Luo Empire, Suzanne looked at everything around him through the carriage window and frowned. There are no traces of fighting along the way, right? Why do I feel that Douluo is lying? Xian Rinxu also noticed something was wrong and frowned tightly, fearing that there would be a bigger trap waiting ahead. And what would she choose then? That bad old man has always been very bad. Suzanne pouted, but she didn't have much worry in her heart. Anyway, there would never be any problems with him here, even if her mother-in-law Bibidan came point at night. Xuan and Suzanne arrived at the first city of the Star Luo Empire point. In order to rush to support Nalan Xian King's army, Xuan asked Nangang Qiu to lead the army from the rear. He and Suzanne came here first with the kinky point. However, the scene in front of them made them completely dumbfounded, and Suzanne couldn't help but swear in his heart. I saw two armies having friendly exchanges under the cliff city. White festive curtains were erected on the tower and then extended to the military camp point between the two. There was a long red carpet, and on both sides of the red carpet were wine tables and banquets. There were people drinking and laughing, and the good voices belonging to the soldiers were even louder. Suzanne and Xuan looked at each other, as if 1,000 grass and mud horses were galloping past in their hearts. Point damn. Is this a wedding? Exclamation mark. Chapter 118 The Collision of Empire Elders. Looking at the scene ahead, Xuan, Suzanne and Xian Rinxu in his arms, felt like they had seen a ghost. Even the sirens from Nalan Xian King's camp failed to wake them up. It was as if their souls had been stripped away from their bodies. Everyone's eyes were filled with emptiness, and even a few sergeants were shocked off their horses. Damn it. Shouldn't the army be fighting bloody battles to prove their innocence? Shouldn't it be a scene of blood flowing thousands of miles and death everywhere in front of us? Nalan Xian King, shouldn't you be dying and desperately waiting for reinforcement? Then, before dying, is it right to say, I'm a man born in heaven, and I will never surrender until I die now? What the hell is going on? A wedding between two armies? I'm so fucking stupid. At this moment, Suzanne really understood how. Take off your pants. Show me. This was so heart-wrenching. Zua, pinch me to see if I'm dreaming. Suzanne murmured. Oh, hearing this, Xian Rinxu suddenly woke up and subconsciously reached for Suzanne's soft waist. Hiss. Stop, stop, stop. You work really hard, Su. Zion's face was pale. Cold sweat appeared on his forehead, and he glared at Xian Rinxu angrily. The appraisal is complete. You are not dreaming. It hurts. Xian Rinxu rubbed Suzanne's hand with some embarrassment, her face full of distress. She was still a little distracted just now, so she didn't strike lightly. Shaking his head, Suzanne didn't care about this. He looked at the banquet in front of him that was disrupted by the alarm and subconsciously said, Second Grandpa, isn't Nalan Xian King treasonous? Maybe. Xuanmu replied blankly. When all of them heard that Douluo said that Nalan Xian King was at war with the Star Luo Empire, they all thought it was a generous sacrifice to prove their innocence, but in the end, it turned out to be such a thing. No wonder when Douluo asked them to come over and take a look, he noticed something was wrong in the old guy's eyes. It turned out to be like this very meow. It turns out that the situation is more serious. 100,000 troops have surrendered to the enemy. This is simply a huge humiliation for the Xiandao Empire and a slap in the face of the royal family. Look, I look at your face. Prepare. At this moment, the voice of the cavalry regiment commander Zhao Yuan rang out, and the light armored cavalry suddenly came to their senses. Looking at the cavalry approaching from the front, the cavalry immediately surged forward, protecting Suzanne and Xuan in the middle. The spears and swords in their hands were also unsheathed and ready for battle. Back off. Looking at Nalan Xian King coming from the front, Xuan's face was as dark as ink, and he waved his hand to the cavalry in front of him, with a cold look flashing in his eyes. Even though they only had 1,000 riders, he wanted to see what Nalan Xian King's army of 100,000 could do to them. General, this is His Royal Highness Prince Xuan. In the cavalry, a man wearing a solemn and simple suit with flowers on his chest saw the flag carried by the cavalry and said excitedly to the man next to him. Next to him is a man wearing armor. The man has a very well proportioned figure, neither fat nor thin. His face is carved with a knife, and accent is mature with a touch of elegance. His sword-shaped eyebrows and starry eyes have gone through many changes. If he hadn't been baptized by the army, he would have been a handsome boy when he was young. But at this moment, he was tortured by the grief in his heart. His eyes were sunken and dark, looking a bit scary, with bloodshot eyes showing heart-rending pain. Nalan Xian Qinghe is also the commander-in-chief of this peace negotiation army. Hearing the word Xuan, Nalan Xian Qinghe's originally dead eyes suddenly filled with great surprise. Okay. A drop of clear tears fell in the dark night and was trampled to pieces by the horse's hooves. After saying hello 3 times, Nalan Xian Qinghe hurried over. The last general, Nalan Xian Qinghe, comes to see His Highness the Prince. Before he arrived, Nalan Xian Qinghe had already dismounted, bent his knees, and knelt down. As a marquis, he performed a kneeling ceremony that was necessary to meet the king. Nalan Xian Qinghe, don't you feel shameful that you are the leader of our Xiandao Empire army and actually led the army to surrender to the Star Luo Empire? Seeing that Nalan Xian Qinghe was still acting coy, Xuan only felt that it was a great shame for herself and immediately roared, "Your Highness, you will be framed for your crimes and you will go astray. You really have no choice but to do this. Even so, I always remember that I, Nalan Xian Qinghe, am a member of the Xiandao Empire in life and a ghost of the Empire in death. I never dare to betray the Empire." With tears of hope in his eyes, as if he had seen an oasis in the desert, Nalan Xian Qinghe grabbed the ground with his head and was extremely sincere. The bitterness all over his body turned into broken beads, dripping into the soil on his body. "Your Highness, we have never betrayed the Empire. What you see now is definitely not what you, the prince, thought." The deputy general also quickly took off his wedding clothes, knelt on the ground, confused, and quickly explained. Seeing the two of them like this, not only Suzanne was, but also Xuan raised his eyebrows, full of doubts in his heart. With the corner of his eye, he glanced at the faces of the cavalry behind them. Seeing that they were not panicked, but full of surprises, as if they had seen a savior, Xuan frowned immediately. "Tell me, my king, what on earth are you doing now?" Pointing to the wedding banquet under the city, Xuan shouted coldly with an expressionless face. "Ha ha ha. I didn't expect you to come, Mr. N, but it's a good time." Before Nalan Xian Qinghe could answer, a loud and powerful old voice sounded first. Then an old man in gorgeous clothes appeared, with a golden crown on his head. It seemed that he had been drinking, and there was a faint blush on the old man's wrinkled face, but this did not hinder the old man's sense of magnanimity and stability. "Are you here too?" Looking at the old man, Xuan's heart skipped a beat, her eyes suddenly narrowed, her body became a little tense, and she replied coldly, "Haha. If I hadn't come, I'm afraid you, 100,000 troops, would have become the dead souls of our Star Luo Empire." The old man smiled casually, his face full of pride and confidence. "Damn it. So cool." Looking at the old man, it seemed that there was no information about this person in his mind. Suzanne glanced at Xiao Yuan and asked in a low voice, "This old man is awesome. Do you know who he is?" He is hearing this. Xiao Yuan was immediately startled. Just as he was about to answer, he saw the old man's eyes glancing towards him. Hissus. If his throat was being strangled, Xiao Yuan suddenly fell silent and felt a chill running down his back. Ignoring Xiao Yuan, the old man focused his attention on Suzanne. Seeing that he was carrying a woman on his horse, he couldn't help laughing. "Little boy, you are even more awesome at coaxing me than me when you are marching and fighting with your girlfriend." "Old man, this is an exaggeration. I'm just a little better than you." Suzanne waved his hands quickly and replied with a humble face. "Old man, MMP. Can't you tell I'm mocking you? Please automatically subscribe and reward!" Exclamation mark. Chapter 119. What are you playing in Laos? Hey? Farewell, king. Remember this old face. If you have the opportunity to humiliate this guy in the future, don't let it go. Xuan narrowed his eyes slightly and warned in a cold voice. The tone was full of resentment, anger, and gnashing of teeth, which made Suzanne feel a little frightened when he heard it. What a hatred and hate. Looking at Xuan in surprise, Suzanne never thought that Xuan would say this so frankly. "What's this? This is to bluntly tell others that I'm very unhappy with you and just want to mess with you. Old man, why are you so upset about what happened back then? Smiling gracefully, the old man didn't seem to have the slightest anger on his face, which made Xuan snort, full of indignation. After saying that, the old man looked at Suzanne again and said with some surprise, it turns out he is the eldest prince of the Xian Empire. No wonder he went out with the army at such a young age. It's not bad, seeing that his style was so high. Suzanne seemed to know why Xuan hated him so much. When he looked at this face, he felt a little unhappy. He always felt that there was a sense of loneliness and arrogance in the face. He's the kind of person who shows off his coolness, doesn't show off, but exudes coolness all the time. In a word, there is a lack of severe beatings from society to smooth out the rough edges, otherwise they will not be honest. Old man, haven't you asked for advice? Noticing that Zhao Yuan seemed to be in awe, and even Xuan had a solemn look on his face, Suzanne raised an eyebrow and asked, I am Zulin. The old man replied calmly, a proud light flashed in his eyes. Oh, hearing this, Suzanne's pupils shrank suddenly, and he finally knew who this person was, and couldn't help but let out a long sound. No wonder Xuan is so angry. Emotions are the main thing that beats the Mandarin duck. The number one surname in the Star Luo Empire is Wangju. The other part is low position in the Star Luo Empire is just like Xuan's in the Xiandao Empire. It depends on the emperor's mood, whether he pays attention to him or not. No wonder he is so awesome and coaxing. After checking his eyes, this is a person who is going to be beaten and petted. Since we are all here, let's come down and have a wedding drink together, Zulin invited. Hearing this, Xuan did not answer, but looked at Nalan Xianqing blankly, hoping that he could give him an answer. Old man, I will talk to you about this later. You won't even dare to come down and have a drink, right? Seeing that Xuan actually ignored him, Zulin raised his eyebrows slightly and said excitedly, don't do this. I'm here to lead an army, and I'm not here to have a wedding banquet, Zhu. And immediately shouted in a deep voice. While this was an angry comment against Zulin, he was also expressing his attitude and reminding Nalan Xianqing and others, you're still so impatient, so I'll just talk to you, Zhu. Lin couldn't help but shook his head and then told Xuan what happened. It turned out that Nalan Xianqing originally wanted to fight to the death with the Xingluo Empire to prove his ambition through death. But who is he? The smartest and wisest person in the Star Luo Empire. His eagle-like eyes have seen through everything. After knowing everything that happened in Emo City, he immediately knew that Nalan Xianqing was framed and planned to start a fight between the Star Luo Empire and the Xiandao Empire. In the end, the people behind the scenes reaped the benefits. After thinking about everything, he immediately stopped Nalan Xianqing and then talked him through, telling him to calm down, stop acting recklessly, and just wait here in the Star Luo Empire. As for the wedding, it was a female general from the Star Luo Empire who took a fancy to Nalan Xianqing's deputy general during the peace talks. Then, the two of them seemed to be in love. Children in the army didn't have so many things to do, so they got married without a second thought. Alright. In fact, Nalan Xianqing's army ran out of food, so he sold the deputy general, euphemistically calling it the beauty of adulthood. Therefore, this is the current wedding scene. Why does it sound so bloody? Hearing this, Suzanne's face was full of disbelief, and in his heart he felt like there was a grass mud horse munching on the grass leisurely. Brother, this is the enemy's army. If this person gets married, who will be his in a war? Aren't you afraid of being directly labeled as having liaison with the enemy by the emperor? With the character of mild man, you are definitely going to be a loser. You will never be able to hang out in Xiandao City again. You would be so kind? Xuan asked with a frown, his cold eyes like arrows, braving the cold light, stabbing straight at Zulin. Haha, I really can't forgive you for what happened in the past, but this is a major matter between the two countries, and we can still distinguish the importance of it. A trace of apology flashed across his face, and Zulin replied. Suddenly, the thunderous sound of horse hooves sounded behind. Zulin raised his eyebrows at Xuan, as if he had seen through you. Your troops have arrived. Can you sit down and have a wedding drink in peace now? Snort, Zhu. and snorted arrogantly, her eyes full of disdain, but she still got off the horse. Immediately, at Zulin's invitation, the two old men left together leisurely. Seeing how Xuan believed Zulin so much, Suzanne paid no attention to anything. Both of them have been foxes for thousands of years. Neither of them will believe the other until the last step of the confrontation between the two armies. Xuan would not believe Nalan Xian King with just a few words, but this wine, the army has already arrived, so there is no harm in drinking it. What happened when Nangang Qiu and others arrived? They saw Xuan heading towards the city and saw the banquet under the city. They were immediately confused. Their inner feelings were the same as Suzanne's before. Explain it to her. After looking at Zhao Yun, Suzanne then rode away with Qian Ringsu. Nangang Qiu immediately looked at Zhao Yun. General Nangang, this is what happened. Xian was not very good at wars and conspiracies, and he was too lazy to hang out with a bunch of big guys. Isn't it delicious when you have time to count stars with your little wife on a low hillside? Two figures stayed here quietly, the night breeze blowing against their faces, making them feel uncomfortable. With her long hair flying, she was so beautiful that she stayed with the man next to him. Their faces were full of warmth and smiles, just like a couple of gods and immortals. Noticing that Qian Ringsu's eyes were always looking at the wedding not far away, Suzanne raised the corner of her mouth slightly and said, "If you are jealous, we can get married first. I don't mind." Of course you don't mind. I'm afraid I'm almost laughing in my heart. Qian Ringsu was not angry, but she couldn't help but feel a little moved in her heart. Unfortunately, it was too early now. If I don't laugh, am I still crying? Suzanne replied seriously. I don't want to care about you. Qian Ringsu curled her lips and sat quietly with her knees in her arms, looking at the stars in the distant sky with her jewel-like eyes, seemingly smiling. Time passed slowly, and the moonlight became more round. Under the pure white moonlight, a graceful figure dances gracefully, with long sleeves like a fluttering Milky Way. Like a fairy point, the figure is as light as a butterfly passing by, erratic as a god, graceful and graceful. The hands are relaxed, and the eyes are flowing with elegance and charm, which is intoxicating. Chapter 120. Don't argue, let's fight. Nalan Xian King's incident ended in a funny way, but it was beyond everyone's surprise. If Zulin hadn't been here, Nalan Xian King would have definitely fought with the Star Luo Empire's army. After all, compared to their status as rebels, it is an honor for them to die for the country and be buried in horse hides. From this perspective, it seems that the Xiandao Empire should be grateful to Zulin for saving this 100,000 strong army. However, there has never been such friendship between countries after the border friction and Nalan Xian King's peace negotiation. A new peace negotiation theme began again. Outside Moya City, inside the joint Chinese army camp. There were people from both parties sitting on both sides of the long seat. On one side are the negotiators of the Xiandao Empire, Xuan, Suzanne, Nangang Qiu. On the other side were the negotiators of the Star Luo Empire, Zulin and others. The serious scene made everyone lose their smiles, and you could even hear the sound of fighting and iron horses. A bloodless fight began here. Old Manon, if your army of 250,000 invades the territory of our Star Luo Empire, shouldn't we give our Star Luo Empire an explanation for this matter? Zulin glanced at Suzanne and others' expressions expressionlessly, and even his voice was neither salty nor cool. Nala's homely language seemed clean, but everyone present felt a bit of coldness piercing their hearts. This confrontation has officially begun. Explain, Zhu. And couldn't help but sneered. If I remember correctly, this cliff city belonged to my Xiandao Empire 30 years ago. Although it has been stolen by you now, it will always be the territory of our Xiandao Empire. Why shouldn't my army come here to commemorate its homeland and train troops? By the way, as soon as these words came out, Suzanne finally understood where his shameless character came from. Look at this art of speaking and travel through time yourself. It simply ignited the shameless gene in Zuking. To sum up, in fact, I was originally a kind person, but I was led astray. Nangang Qiufeng and other generals' mouths twitched slightly, but no one dared to laugh, or even had any contempt for Xuan. They all understood that this was Xuan's bargaining, otherwise the army would invade other countries without request, which would be basically the same as starting a war. However, both sides knew that this war could not continue, so they wanted to resolve it peacefully. From the perspective of the Star Luo Empire, Zulin would certainly not let go of the opportunity to slaughter meat. Your Highness, no matter what, the two countries are now governed by a river, and Cliff City is the territory of our Star Luo Empire. Your country must give an explanation. Besides, your country's 100,000 strong army, if our country had not handled it properly, would have been buried under the Cliff City at this moment. There are two reasons why our Xingluo Empire is right. Why is His Highness such a scoundrel? A leisurely and slightly green voice sounded, and everyone looked at the young man sitting on Zulin's left. Davis, the eldest prince of the Star Luo Empire. He is only 11 years old, but he is so calm and steady, with the demeanor of a general, which makes people secretly praise him. Then, everyone looked at Suzanne, especially the generals from the Xian Empire, who were full of expectations, and Xuan couldn't help but push him. Prince to prince, eldest prince to eldest prince, you must set an example. Suzanne, MMP. I haven't even finished my melon yet, but you should continue. Facing everyone's expectant eyes, Suzanne knew that she could no longer hide. For a person as dazzling as him, no matter where he is, he can't hide his dazzlingness. We must close the door and release poison. Douluo. I think that since your country says that Cliff City is yours, and we think it is our country's territory, why not let's just fight head on. Whoever wins will be the winner in the end. The army always speaks with its fists, doesn't it? Whoever has the biggest fist has the last word, right? The corner of Suzanne's mouth was slightly raised, and Suzanne's overbearing voice swept the entire camp in an instant. Everyone was immediately dumbfounded, looking at the young voice in disbelief. Damn it, didn't you see that they were negotiating? Didn't you want to fight at all? What did you mean by flipping the table? Zulin and Xuan also looked at Suzanne dumbfounded, unable to believe that as a prince, he actually said this. Once a fight breaks out, it will really be a river of blood. Damn it, have you considered this? If he knew what they were thinking, Suzanne would definitely refute them unceremoniously. No matter what you think about, you are grinding and chirping like a stick. If he wants to fight, he will fight. If he doesn't, he will be knocked down. The thing he doesn't accept the most is threats. Others were afraid that Wu Hundian would take advantage, but he was not afraid. After all, it would be their joint property from now on. As for the river of blood, do you think our blog is just a decoration? Nonsense. Teach your army how to behave in minutes. That's right. Since we can't argue, let's just have a fight. Whoever wins will listen. At this time, Xuan also slapped the table and stood up, extremely emotional, with a confident smile on his face, showing off his domineering attitude. With that confident and heroic look, Suzanne felt that the sentence "the light of the righteous path shines on the earth" was missing at the moment. BGM. That was simply Xuan's biggest shortcoming at the moment. Everyone, the grandfather and grandson, won't get sick at the same time, right? Seeing Suzanne and Xuan, everyone couldn't help but have such thoughts flashing through their hearts. Zulin was also in a daze, as if he had seen Xuan like this for the first time. His eyes were filled with astonishment, and he felt as if the world was turned upside down. Beat. What a fart. When did the Heaven Dao Empire defeat our Star Luo Empire? Depend on. Did Liang Jingru give you the courage today, or did you drink too much and didn't wake up? As long as you eat a peanut before drinking, you won't be so drunk. Old man, you are serious about what you said? Do you have to think clearly? Zulin's face turned purple, and he gritted his teeth as he reminded, certainly, Zhu. And meticulously, without giving in at all. Since we are arguing endlessly, why not decide the outcome in a battle, and we can talk slowly after the fight is over. Okay, this is what you said, Mud. Bodhisattva still has 3 fires, and Zulin's temper is also rising. He has lived for so long, and has never been afraid of anyone. Isn't it just a beating? Whoever slaps whom? After finishing speaking, Zulin left directly with the Xingluo Empire troops, his face filled with murderous intent, and his eyes seemed to have a long-lost sense of excitement. I will knock you down later, and see if you are still crazy. 3 minutes later, at the foot of Cliff City. Old man Zhu, we don't have much time. Do you want to fight or not? Suzanne and Xuan stood under the tower and started shouting. They saw each of them holding a watermelon and eating it deliciously. You guys are bullying others too much. Holding onto the city wall, Zulin's face was as green vegetables. He gritted his teeth and stared at Suzanne and the two of them, wishing to kill them with his eyes. MMP, if you have the ability to fight openly and honestly, what does it mean to let Douluo poison you? You can't afford to lose. Mean. Shameless. Obscene. Please subscribe and reward. There are 3 more updates today. Ali will give it. Chapter 121 Bibidang, 100,000-year-old beast. In the Lord's mansion of Cliff City, a group of people gathered here again. Without the serious atmosphere during the negotiation, one face was proud of the spring breeze, and the other was as pale as shit. The raging anger was suppressed in the heart, but the hatred could not be vented. Old man Zhu, didn't you just lose once? Do you need to look like a dead fish? Looking at Zulin, Zuan clicked her tongue and shook her head, with a playful expression on her face and a smile on her face. Wow Kaka, you have today too. When you were beating up the Mandarin ducks, you were very arrogant, and looked down on me. Now you have fallen into my hands. Hearing this, Zulin's face turned even darker, and he yelled angrily, I didn't lose to you, I lost to that guy Poison Douluo. Zulin's eyes were blood red, as if he could burst into flames, and then shouted, if you have the ability to draw up the Lanoop, let's have a fair fight. Whoever loses will be the grandson. He, Zhu, and didn't take it seriously, but instead sneered, looking at Zulin with a playful look. It's no wonder that you are also the leader. Don't you know what the saying soldiers are deceitful means? Losing is losing, winning is winning. There is never anything mean or despicable in fighting. There are only those who can afford to lose, and those who cannot afford to lose. Zhu and shouted domineeringly. His domineering aura did not look like an octogenarian at all, but more like a battlefield veteran in his prime, which made people awe-inspiring. After the fierce drink, the whole place fell into silence. Even Zulin was stunned and speechless for a moment, not knowing how to refute. Although fighting is indeed the case, there is never anything insidious or not, and everything is worthless in the face of victory. In short, the winner takes all, and the loser kneels down. But he was really unwilling to lose like this. What's hateful is that he obviously lost to a titled Douluo, but the one showing off his power here is him, an old bastard. By the way, if you think what you said is nonsense, I won't continue to embarrass you. I will lead the army to leave Cliff City later. I will never take it as my own. After all, we are old friends for many years. Who is the one between the two of us? If you get angry, I won't be able to go to the Star Luo Empire to offer you incense every year on your death anniversary. Alas, this makes my old friend seem unkind and unjust. Zhu and talked eloquently, with a smile on her face and a look of suppressing pride, which fully explained what it means to be good, even if you get an advantage. You puff. With a sweetness in his throat, Zulin became so angry that he suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood and fell down. For a moment, the hall fell into chaos. Zuan, sure enough, even those who are arrogant can't bear the torment, but they still haven't experienced much. After seeing that Zulin was fine, Zuan waved to Suzanne and others and left directly. Things at the border have basically come to an end, and Zuan led the army to leave Cliff City to avoid changes that would cause a war. The Xian Empire has gained an advantage this time and saved Malin Xian King's 100,000 strong army. As for the city, it belongs to whomever it belongs to. Decades of anger had been released, and Zuan didn't want the two countries to really fight. It would be of no benefit to the Xian Empire. As everyone returned to the court, the steel torrent of the 250,000 strong army looked so surging, and the visual impact of the armored and iron horses shocked the heartstrings. I said, Old Poison, they have all arrived in the Star Luo Empire. Why don't you go visit their city? In the Chinese army camp, Suzanne couldn't help but feel a little angry when he saw that Douluo was actually there waiting in the camp. As a titled Douluo, you are so unwilling to make progress, and you actually stay here instead of going to the Star Luo Empire to rob. Are you worthy of your strength, or do you think you have earned enough gold coins and can now expand? Hearing this, Douluo glanced at him lightly and did not respond. Although there are no titled Douluo on the surface of the Star Luo Empire, The power of the royal family is very powerful. No one knows whether there are hidden title Douluo. This old guy will not get into trouble. At this time, Xuan laughed, but there was helplessness and solemnity in this smile. Snort. Douluo snorted angrily, and Douluo didn't seem to mean to quibble. Just as Xuan said, the Star Luo Empire is indeed not easy to mess with. Oh, Wuhan City, inside the Pope's palace point, a woman was listening to the report of the two people below. Her beautiful eyebrows couldn't help but wrinkled, her eyes were shining, and she didn't know what she was thinking. Point: the woman is slender and exquisite, wearing a luxurious silver robe inlaid with gold patterns, and a 9-curved purple gold crown on her head. Her brows inadvertently show a domineering and cold look, like a born emperor who wants to be worshipped. Point: compared with these, what is even more stunning is her appearance. Her flawless white skin has a hint of pink that can be broken by a blow, her thin eyebrows, her small and delicate nose bridge, her crystal clear pink lips, everything is so perfect. Ghost: are you sure that person is really that strong? After listening to Ghost Douluo's narration, Bibi Dong pondered for a moment, then her elegant and cold voice sounded as if she still didn't believe it. The Wuhan Palace's power is spread across the entire continent, and the information about all title Douluo is recorded. Even if some are hidden in secret, there is also some basic information about them. Suddenly a titled Douluo appeared, and his strength was above level 95 titled Douluo. This was a bit unbelievable. His Majesty the Pope, I'm certain that that person probably did not use his full strength, but seemed to be teasing me. Otherwise, I might not even be able to come back. Ghost Douluo replied with lingering fear. When he mentioned that the other party was playing tricks on him, he seemed to be unable to express any anger. Instead, he only felt deep helplessness and unwillingness. Ghost: are you kidding? Zhu Douluo Yugwen, who was dressed in a coquettish way, shrank his pupils and was surprised. He knew the ghost's character very well and spoke coldly, so what he said must be sincere. Could it be that an unknown title Douluo really appeared? Bibi Dong couldn't help but tighten her hold on the scepter, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. He was just a titled Douluo who couldn't stir up any trouble. After thinking for a moment, Bibi Dong's unquestionable tone sounded again. Ignore the affairs of the Balak Kingdom for the time being. You two will go with me to the Stardow Forest. The exploration team found traces of a 100,000-year-old soul beast there. 100,000-year soul beast. The pupils of Zhu Douluo and Zhu Douluo shrank suddenly, and the shock in their hearts immediately overshadowed their curiosity and doubts about the unknown titled Douluo. Yes, Your Majesty the Pope. Looking at the woman in front of them with admiration, the two of them were filled with excitement. They did not expect that Bibi Dong's strength would improve again. If she gets the 100,000-year-old soul beast, maybe she will really become the strongest pope in history. Even, not necessarily more than that person. Chapter 122: Leaving the Army, A Sweet Journey. 4. More updates for the Hidden Emperor. What? Are you leaving the army? When he heard that Suzanne was leaving the army and going out alone, Xuan frowned deeply, and his first reaction was to refuse. However, seeing Suzanne's firm eyes, Xuan seemed to see his determination, and asked in a deep voice, "Can you tell me what you are going to do?" Suzanne came out with him, and he was still a grandfather. If something went wrong, he wouldn't be able to explain it when he went back. In particular, Suzanne is the eldest son and the one who is most likely to inherit the throne in the future. I plan to go to the Stardow Forest to hunt soul beasts. My soul power has reached level 40 now. Suzanne said truthfully. Your soul power is now level 40. Hearing this, Xuan's jaw almost dropped, and her eyes widened in disbelief. Although he could sense that Suzanne was a soul master, the specific soul power level was not clear. Damn it, I remember that 10 days ago, you were only level 37 soul master in the soul fighting arena. Now you are at level 40? On average. Fuck, level 1 in 3 days. I'm confused. How come your cultivation efficiency is as easy as drinking cold water? Well, I may have been more leisurely and open-minded recently, so I may have improved faster. Suzanne scratched his head and said with embarrassment. Xuan, God improves so quickly when he is free. Can he speak human words well? No. Feeling more and more determined in her decision, Xuen flatly refused and continued with a serious face. Although there are many soul beasts in the Stardao forest, the danger is also the greatest. There is a soul hunting forest near Xian city, so there is no need to put yourself in danger. After we go back, even if you want a 10,000-year-old soul beast, I can catch it for you. Don't be in a hurry. Well, seeing Xuen being so decisive, Suzanne wanted to give herself a mouthful to talk about soul power. Isn't this just putting her in confinement? If I say that I want to go out for fun now, I wonder if I will be beaten to death. Seeing that Suzanne was still hesitating, Xuen was also a little anxious. You are only 14 years old and already have level 40 soul power. Your talent is not much worse than that of Haoshan Douluo. You may not be able to become a titled Douluo in the future. Luo, if you need a soul ring, I can have someone escort you to the soul hunting forest. You can definitely find a suitable one there. There is no need to go to the Stardao forest. With such words, Xuen was really anxious. He was quite willing to accompany Suzanne to the Stardao forest to hunt the soul beasts, but the army really couldn't escape here. Nangang Qiu and the others are soul emperors, so it's fine to go to the Empire soul hunting forest, but the Stardao forest is too dangerous. As for Douluo, he was instigated by himself to harm the Balak Kingdom's military supplies. After all, they couldn't let them go just like that. Regarding Nail and Xian King point otherwise, it would be a good choice to let Douluo accompany him. This seeing that Xuen values his future so much, Suzanne is also a little embarrassed. After all, he is a cheater and is not very powerful. Second, Grandpa, don't worry, I'll go wandering around the outskirts of the Stardao forest and hunt down a 1,000-year soul beast. No, before Suzanne's voice of assurance could fall, she was rejected by Xuen again. His face also became stern. If you insist on going to the Stardao forest, at worst, when the army returns to Xian city, I will personally take you over to hunt the soul beasts. That's okay, Suzanne, it can be a hammer. I just want to find a reason to leave the army. Okay, I just want to go out for a trip, not to hunt soul beasts. Suzanne shrugged and had no choice but to show off his cards. Haha, you think I will believe your excuse? I'm telling you, you stay in the army and you're not allowed to go anywhere. With a sneer on her lips, Xuen's stern voice sounded, and it seemed that she was ready to be a villain. Seeing that Xuen's explanation didn't make sense, Suzanne was too lazy to continue talking. It's not like he doesn't have legs, he just came here to say goodbye so as not to worry. Call General Nangang. Seeing Suzanne leave angrily, Xuen called Nangang Qiu over for fear that he might escape. Go and watch King. Remember not to move an inch. Don't let him leave the army alone, Xuen said without any doubt. Here, in the carriage, Suzanne and Kan Ringsu were filled with embarrassment when they saw Nangang Qiu standing there like a light bulb. I said, a husband and wife are having fun here, can't you avoid it? Suzanne raised an eyebrow and reminded, with a hint of displeasure in his voice. The marshal's order told me to keep an eye on you, and my sister also told me to take good care of you. I'm right here. You can do whatever you want. Nangang Qiu replied meticulously. Suzanne, God is so free. If we make little people here now, are you still going to witness the miracle? As I said, I am just going for a trip. I'll disguise myself when the time comes. There won't be any danger. Suzanne patiently tried to explain, but when Nangang Qiu just looked at him expresslessly and didn't speak, Suzanne was completely convinced. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. After saying angrily, Suzanne went directly to the bedroom behind the carriage, but before leaving, he gave Kan Ringsu a look. The two had been inseparable for so long. Kan Ringsu immediately understood, smiled at Nangang Qiu, and then walked into the bedroom. After leaving a letter, Suzanne took Kan Ringsu directly into the space covered by the vast sea universe, and then escaped from the army. Half an hour later, a man and a woman walked happily on the grass. At first glance, there were only a few people and only one path leading into the distance point. The woman was wearing a palace dress and looked as if she were a fairy. She tiptoed and turned freely on the grass. She didn't care at all that her white dress was stained by grass juice. She looked like a carefree elf. After wandering around the man, the woman suddenly hugged him. Where should we go next? A pair of water-cut eyes sparkled smartly, filled with autumn water, and the pretty face with a dimple was slightly flushed with excitement and joy. Let's go to Fasno province and have a look. It happens to be bordering the kingdom of Barak. Let's just walk southwest. Suzanne also had a smile on his face. His eyes were clear, and he didn't seem to have any distracting thoughts. He just wanted to have fun. Okay, hearing this, Xian Ringsu agreed without hesitation. It didn't matter where she went. She wasn't going alone anyway. Seeing the tenderness in Xian Ringsu's eyes, Suzanne rubbed her face lovingly, then held her with both hands and let her step on his boots. Let's go. Smiling slightly, Suzanne just hugged her, and the two of them moved slowly on the grass. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123. The 100,000-year soul beast is so fragrant. Happy time is always short-lived. Suzanne knew this before point, but now he knows that the happy time of a couple is even more short-lived. There seems to be something wrong with this statement, but the meaning is similar. Looking at the three figures in front of him, Suzanne's face drooped, and he suddenly felt a little hopeless. Traveling through Douluo continent, he encountered all three tragic things at once. First, there were still three of them surrounded by titled Douluo. Second, I was traveling with my unmarried wife, and was hit by my mother-in-law. Third, and most importantly, damn it, as enemies, they all know themselves, and they can't even act like a passerby, even though she knew that she was strong. Xian Ringsu was still protecting her. Seeing this scene, Suzanne was very moved. Alas, there are not many beautiful wives. It's really hard to find a beautiful wife who is devoted to you even with a lantern. His Majesty the Pope is not in Wuhan City. Why are you here suddenly free? With a forced smile on her lips, Suzanne couldn't help but sympathize with the woman in front of her. A tragic woman, the saddest one is her. Together with Xian Ringsu and Hulina, they just make up the trio of landlords. What's more, the three of them looked so beautiful together. No wonder countless people followed the five sense organs, shouting that the Shrek 7 devils should be defeated, and the spirit hall would be victorious. This was not without reason. But he himself is not that kind of person who cares about looks, because he has never known what it means to be beautiful. Therefore, for him to fight the Shrek 7 devils was a correct choice, based on his three views. Just hit it. Hearing Suzanne speak, Bibi Dong's cold gaze shifted from Xian Ringsu to Suzanne. Seeing Xian Ringsu stretching out her arms to protect Suzanne, glaring at her threateningly, her small face revealed her perseverance until death. Bibi Dong seemed to have thought of something. Her eyes became even colder, and bloodshot eyes were faintly visible. Suzanne, it's over. She's not going to kill herself, is she? Then, he successfully became the first protagonist to be killed by his mother-in-law. No, it seems she can't beat me. His Majesty the Pope. Noticing that something was wrong with Bibi Dong's mood, Yu Guan's strange voice rang out and reminded her kindly. Bibi Dong suddenly woke up, took a deep breath, and suppressed the sweet and resentful memories deep in her heart. Your Highness didn't go out with the army to suppress the rebellion, so why are you here alone? With a slight smile on her lips, Bibi Dong did not answer the question, but a cold light flashed deep in her narrow phoenix eyes, as if she was thinking about how to cook Suzanne. The army has returned to the court. I can take this opportunity to come out and experience the sufferings of the people. Suzanne said his nonsense without a red face and a heartbeat. Xian Ringsu, who was in front of her, also came to her senses. She held Suzanne's arms with both hands and turned her body slightly sideways. She was anxious and seemed to have chosen a direction to escape. Noticing Xian Ringsu's little movements, Bibi Dong raised the corners of her mouth slightly, with a sneer on her face. If she really wants to kill him, unless Xian Douluo comes, otherwise, can you escape? Your Highness is really interested. Bibi Dong subconsciously praised him, and then didn't say any more words. Looking at Xian Ringsu, and then at Suzanne, Bibi Dong felt mixed emotions and couldn't make a choice point now. She wanted to take revenge and kill Suzanne immediately so that Khan Zhengji's daughter could feel her pain. But she was still her daughter. Even though she hated her and even wanted to kill her, she still couldn't change it. She was born in her 10th month of pregnancy point. Although she hated him in her heart, she also knew that Khan Rinxu was innocent. Especially seeing Khan Rinxu's appearance at this moment, she seemed to think of her original self, who also loved so deeply and was willing to give up everything for the other person. After pondering for a while, Bibi Dong finally breathed a sigh of relief, and the coldness in her eyes reduced a lot. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. After finishing her words, Bibi Dong looked at Ghost Douluo and the two, then jumped into the air and flew away. Although I don't know why Bibi Dong didn't kill Suzanne while there was no one around, but since she made such a choice, she must have a reason. Ghost Douluo and the two left immediately without attacking Suzanne. Cool. Seeing Bibi Dong leaving, Suzanne finally breathed a sigh of relief. It was so dangerous just now. He almost had to pick 3 titled Douluo, and one of them was his mother-in-law point. If this was not a serious attack and he injured and disabled his mother-in-law, if he got married and went to the Wuhan palace to pick up the bride, he would have to go there secretly. Suzanne didn't have much dislike for Bibi Dong, but more pity and sympathy. It's a pity he traveled too late, otherwise he could have saved this miserable woman, but then he wouldn't be able to see Khan Rinxu. Alas, you scared me to death just now. Khan Rinxu took a long breath, with lingering fear in her eyes. 3 titled Douluo, Twin Martial Soul Bibi Dong, Martial Soul Fusion Technique Ghost Jew. If there really was a fight, even though Suzanne had the armor and formations, his chances of winning were not great point. Although she was unhappy with Bibi Dong, she didn't want to see the two sides fighting. Let's go to Fasno province. As soon as Suzanne spoke, Khan Rinxu nodded quickly. It would be terrible if Bibi Dong came back point, putting the soul mask on her face. Khan Rinxu also put it on knowingly to avoid being recognized by others. What's wrong? Khan Rinxu asked subconsciously when she saw Suzanne took 2 steps and suddenly stopped, almost stepping on him point. After staring at the direction Bibi Dong left for a moment, Suzanne had some guesses in his heart. That direction is exactly the direction of the Stardao forest. 2 titled Douluo were needed to accompany him. If his guess was correct, they should be hunting soul beasts, and the target, Xiao Wu's mother? This is very possible. So, do I need to kill Xiao Wu along the way to prevent her from harming other men? I'm really becoming more and more cruel. However, the braised rabbit meat is very fragrant, and the taste of the soul beast should not be bad, right? After thinking about it, Suzanne decided to forget it. The number of 100,000-year soul beasts is limited, and she is only level 40. Khan Rinxu doesn't seem to need a soul ring, so just taking soul bones is a bit too wasteful. Point wrong. How fragrant a 100,000-year soul beast is. He doesn't need anyone else. Damn it, the 100,000-year-old soul beast auction is so fragrant. Zua, let's go to the Stardao forest. After making up her mind, Suzanne directly released his martial spirit and headed towards the Stardao forest with a stunned Khan Rinxu. 100,000-year-old soul beast, if you see that you have a share, don't take it all to yourself. Exclamation mark. Chapter 124 Star Forest. Stardao Forest, where the 3 major soul beasts of Douluo continent live, is located on the border of Berek Kingdom and Star Luo Empire, and Star Luo Empire has a larger area point, since the soul beasts live in large groups, and the Stardao Forest has been protected for 100,000 years, and there are many powerful soul beasts inside. Most of the soul masters who come to the Stardao Forest to hunt are cautious about wandering around the periphery. Of course, only powerful soul masters dare to explore deep inside. Therefore, the interior of the Star Forest is still in a primitive state, with towering ancient trees everywhere, and the unique and beautiful natural scenery is breathtaking. The fragrance mixed in the air lingers in the nose, making people feel relaxed and happy. Unable to get too close to Bibi Dong and the others, Suzanne and Khan Rinxu lost their whereabouts in the blink of an eye. How about we go and snatch the 100,000-year soul beast? If it is discovered, then Khan Rinxu's eyes were full of worry, and she didn't know whether to praise Suzanne for being brave or to scold Suzanne for his life point. If he were to snatch 100,000-year soul beast in front of 3 titled Douluo, it would be a life or death situation. If he was discovered, when the time comes, Bibidong will not let Suzanne off easily, even if his identity is exposed and he is blocked. Don't worry, wife, we won't rob it, we will just pick it up. There is not 100,000-year soul beast in the Stardow forest, so Xian comforted her in a gentle voice. He didn't care what happened to Xiao Wu's mother. Xiao Wu had escaped anyway, so he could just catch her and take her back. Pick it up. Qian Rinxu's face was filled with astonishment. That is 100,000-year soul beast. Just pick it up as you say. Why don't you tell us that our family has dozens of 100,000-year soul beasts? Listen to me. You will definitely not be discovered, so don't worry. Suzanne said firmly, point with a face full of stubbornness and worry. Qian Rinxu stared blankly at Suzanne and said in a firm tone that did not allow for refutation, if we are discovered, we will leave immediately. Don't start a fight with them rashly. Okay, I know. After pinching Qian Rinxu's cheek, Suzanne smiled sweetly and hugged her gently, as if he wanted to give her some warmth and security. There was a warm and smooth friction feeling on her face, and then a heart-stirring feeling came over her. Those soft, egg-like cherry lips pressed lightly on her face, and Suzanne was stunned for a moment. After they separated, Suzanne smiled casually and was very happy when he saw Qian Rinxu's shy and blushing face. I didn't expect that my daughter-in-law would take such initiative. This is the first time in history, in the past, that time I wasn't the one who was domineering. Woo woo woo. Today, we finally managed to keep the clouds clear and see the moonlight. Instead of teasing her anymore, for fear that she would be too thin-skinned to resist, Suzanne smiled beautifully, then hugged her slender waist and flew directly into the sky. When Xiang Nephrite couldn't put it down, and the graceful back curve was leaning against his chest. The touch was so intoxicating and charming, and countless cells seemed to be turbulent and numb in her heart. Suzanne subconsciously tightened her grip, as if he wanted to integrate her into his body. The Stardow forest is too big to be covered by ordinary detection methods, and it is even easy to be discovered. Suzanne can only rely on the sounds of battle to sense the location of Bibidong and the others. An hour later, Suzanne couldn't fly anymore. She sat on a big tree and ate cakes while using a milk bottle to restore her soul power. This ruined forest is so big, we must neutralize it one day. While eating, Suzanne started to curse in her heart and felt very unhappy. Qian Rinxu looked calm and seemed to think it was good that she couldn't find it. It's just 100,000-year-old soul beast, so there's no need to put yourself in danger. If you really fight Bibidong, the situation will not be good. Well, just as Suzanne was about to set off, 2 figures suddenly walked under the tree, and he was stunned. Damn it, sure enough, I now have the aura of the protagonist. Try to find, looking for a fart. This is not delivered to your door. I saw 2 figures, one large and one small, walking slowly under the tree. The woman was wearing a light gauze and looked to be about 30 years old. She had elegant curves and a good appearance. She seemed to have washed away her beauty, and there seemed to be a mature charm between her eyebrows with a motherly gentleness on her face. The woman was holding a girl in her hand. The girl looks very young, only about 3 or 4 years old. Her pretty little face is as pink as jade and as tender as a ripe peach, which makes people want to take a bite. Her long black hair was combed into a scorpion braid that hung down over her hips. Her watery hair and eyes were slightly pink, and her soft and timid appearance really made people want to protect her. I checked my eyes. They are definitely 2 rogue rabbits. Especially the younger one, a rogue rabbit who would lie about his age. He was still 6 years old, younger than Tangsan. I am. Gallstone patients have cultivated golden elixirs, and you can't even fake it. Seeing Qian Rinxu making a move, Suzanne quickly held her back so as not to disturb them by making any noise. The rabbit's perception of danger is extremely sensitive, and he would rather pick it up than catch it directly. Fighting with women is something that isn't appropriate for children. It is better to let the mother-in-law do it. Otherwise, it would be inappropriate for a man to bully 2 women and bring his wife with him. Waving to her, Suzanne took out the flare from the storage ring point as the saying goes. An arrow pierces the clouds and thousands of troops come to meet you. In an instant, a bright red lantern rose in the sky, which could still be seen clearly even from a distance. Xiao Wu, go quickly, Xiao Wu's mother was also frightened and ran away quickly with Xiao Wu, regardless of the carrots on her body. In the distance, Bibi Dong saw the signal and rushed over immediately. Are they soul beasts? Seeing Suzanne's movements and the direction in which the two were escaping, Qian Ringsu raised her eyebrows and exclaimed, yeah, 100,000-year transformed soul beast. Suzanne couldn't help but nodded. It was a pity that he couldn't absorb 100,000-year soul ring now, otherwise he could have installed 100,000-year soul ring. Hearing this, Qian Ringsu's pupils shrank suddenly, and she felt a little excited when she looked at the direction in which the two people were escaping. This was the first time she had seen a 100,000-year soul beast transformed, and the two looked so similar to humans that it was almost impossible to tell them apart. Let's just keep an eye on the small one later, and let Bibi Dong and the others fight the big one. With a reminder, Suzanne hid himself again and chased the two in the direction of their escape, intending to enjoy a battle between man and beast. Please subscribe, vote monthly, and reward. Due to different positions, this book will not protect Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu fans can only say sorry. Chapter 125 titled Douluo Level Melee. Flying into the dangerous rock. It is made of nature. The scene in front of you is like a fairyland on earth. So beautiful that it makes people speechless. The crystal clear lake. The waterfall stirs up the snow white waves. The kahuaiao grass. The lake's surface is covered with white mist. Hazy. The lake water seems to be floating in the sky. The water and the sky are dyed in one color. The wet water vapor rushed towards the face, filling all the pores in an instant, seeming to inject infinite energy into the body, and the world was pure. It's a pity that such a beautiful scenery has become a battlefield at this moment. I have to say that this is a great regret. Below, watching the fight between 300,000-year soul beasts and 3 titled Douluo, Suzanne felt as if he had disrupted the process of history again. He remembered that when Bibi Dong hunted the soul beasts, the titan apes and the others were not around. What is the situation now? Could it be that he just summoned the soul beasts and horses with a cloud-piercing arrow? Hiss, it's such a sin. The battle between the two sides gradually began to become fierce. Terrifying soul power surged on the lake, and even the temperature of the lake began to rise. The dazzling soul skills wantonly destroy everything in the lake. The boulders were cut into powder, and the water splash and gravel were blown away. Especially the titan ape. With one punch from the 3-meter large fist, the ground shook, rocks broke through, and waves spread thousands of meters high. Suzanne's eyelids twitched when he saw it. The battle was not like 10 years later, when Bibi Dong poisoned and killed the 100,000-year-old soul beast. Instead, it maintained a balanced posture, and it seemed that no one could defeat the other 10 years. For a soul beast is insignificant, but for the improvement of human strength, it is simply a world of difference, especially for geniuses. Bibi Dong's current soul power is only level 96, which is 2 levels lower than it was 10 years ago. The second martial soul also lacks a 7th soul ring, Xiao Wu's mother's 100,000-year soul ring, and she cannot cast the martial soul. The real body's strength is naturally far inferior to that of 10 years later. The strength of the Titan Giant Ape and the Azure Bull Python are also among the Super Douluo. This battle is really inseparable. Suzanne originally wanted to pick up the missed ones, but it was only now that he realized that he seemed to have picked up a little more than expected. If the fight was more serious, he wouldn't even need to use a measure, and could directly pack up the 4 soul beasts and take them back. Hiss, where is my melon? I must eat more, otherwise my saliva will flow down uncontrollably. Which one of them do you think will win? Looking at the battle below, especially when she saw Bibi Dong being attacked by the thunder and lightning of the Azure Bull Python, Qian Ringsu felt her heart twitch for some reason. She originally hated Bibi Dong, but now she became a little worried. It's hard to say, but I think Bibi Dong and the others are more likely to win. After thinking for a while, Suzanne replied, Bibi Dong's martial spirit is extremely poison and very deadly to spirit beasts. Coupled with Gui Ju's 2 martial spirit fusion skills, they have a greater chance of winning. Although it seemed that on the field, Bibidong was fighting against the Azure Bull Python, the Titan Giant Ape was fighting against Ghost Douluo, and Xiao Wu's mother was fighting against Ju Douluo. The three pairs were inseparable. But humans are humans after all, and they know how to work together. If Azure Bull Python and the others make a mistake, they will be dealt a fatal blow. Oh. Hearing what Suzanne said, Kind Su felt more relieved, and her eyes were still looking down blankly. If the fight continues like this, the outcome is still uncertain, and Bibidong can't help but feel a little anxious. The Death Spider Emperor's martial spirit faded away, and in the blink of an eye a layer of crystal dark green light spread from his body. 3 pairs of dark green spider legs appeared behind him, and his arms turned into similar dark green spears. Bibidong's second martial spirit, the soul-eating Spider Emperor. Suddenly, Bibidong's 6th soul ring shone brightly, and 2 emerald-like giant scythes in both hands were raised at the same time, crossing each other diagonally. Point boom. With a sudden swing, a huge green fork-shaped ripple was slashed out, heading towards the largest Azure Bull Python like thunder. Staring intently, Bibidong's eyes shone with strong anticipation and confidence. This 6th soul skill is one of Bibidong's most domineering single target attack abilities. Physical defense is ineffective. Once hit, one can only rely on soul power to resist until the soul power is exhausted and dies. The Azure Bull Python also seemed to be aware of the danger, and a strong cyan thunder burst out from its mouth in an instant, directly facing Bibidong's attack point. What is shocking is that Eden only resisted for a while before being defeated, and the fork-shaped slash flew towards the Azure Bull Python again. Seeing this scene, Bibidong raised the corners of her mouth slightly, with a sneer in her eyes. Her 6th soul skill is not only immune to physical defense, but can also reduce energy defense by half. So, accept your fate. Just when Bibidong was confident, a golden light suddenly flashed in front of the Azure Bull Python, and Eternal Creation's attack was actually directly blocked. Damn it. Seeing that it was Xiao Wu's mother, Bibidong immediately gritted her teeth. Seeing Xiao Wu's mother being repelled by Bibidong, Ju Douluo's pupils shrank suddenly. Just as he was about to use his soul skill to attack, a huge wave suddenly appeared on the lake. Boom. A huge stem appeared on the lake and tangled directly towards him. His sight was obscured by the waves. When Ju Douluo came back to his senses, he was immediately horrified and quickly stopped releasing his soul skills. The chrysanthemum petals all over his body turned into a shield and wrapped around his body. Boom. There was a dull explosion, and Ju Douluo was sent flying out and was heavily pinned into the rock, with blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. Suddenly, a huge black claw appeared out of nowhere, with a loud boom, and a green figure was shot down into the lake with a pop. Roar. Seeing that Xiao Wu's mother was injured, the Titan Giant Ape immediately became angry. He raised his fist high and black ripples rippled out. The grass and trees on the ground rustled and were even pulled off the ground and flew into the sky. In the black energy ripples, circles of nearly transparent energy gathered in the fist. Bursts of sonic booms crackled, and the huge energy impact was daunting. Immediately, a layer of black waves spread out from the soles of the Titan Ape's feet. Bibidong and Ghost Douluo immediately felt their bodies sink, as if roots had taken root in their souls, making movement difficult. Before the two of them could recover, a blue ripple suddenly swept across them again. Bibidong and the two felt it was even more difficult to move, as if the scenery in front of them had slowed down. Boom. Suddenly, the Titan Giant Ape punched out, and the air compressed to the extreme by it was activated like a cannonball. Call out. The air seemed to be shattered by something, but no trajectory could be detected, and the speed was so fast that it was dizzying. Facing the domineering attack of the Titan Ape, Bibidong suddenly came back to his senses. White circles burst out from his footsteps. The extremely cold killing intent turned into reality. It was so cold that it directly drove the two Titan Apes out of their domain. Move back 2 meters in front of you. Thanks to G for the reward. Please subscribe automatically and reward me. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.